time is this?
Tonight, the revolution begins. I'm expecting a fight, hoping for a war. We are the Bullet Club. I am the greatest living professional wrestler alive. One by one, they will all follow me. Bada boom, realest guys in a room. How you know? Feed me more.
You see the shirt right here? We are NXT. Well, you know what? I am the Cowboy James Storm. I'm a creek swimming, moonshine sipping, beer drinking, deer skinning, Johnny Cash listing SOB from Middle Tennessee. That is me. And to hear them say that I deserve to be here, man, it brings me back to my mom when she used to tell me, when nobody else believed in me, I deserve this. So James Storm is here in NXT. And if nobody likes it, hey, tell them, sorry about their damn luck.
Ladies and gentlemen, wrestling to the mat.
And your hosts, Gary Vaughn, Sean Garmer, and Paul Deezer.
Don't stop the night. Some more music. Don't stop the night.
Hello and welcome to Wrestle the Max episode 166.
Woo!
And we are not only previewing Hell in a Cell today. Oh, we got to talk about some guy that Paul doesn't like.
Oh. I think the hint is you heard him in the intro. That's the guy that Paul does not like. But, well, let's not spoil too much. We do have a lot of stuff coming up. We'll give you kind of a summarization of what that is. We're talking, like Sean said, Hell in a Cell. We're going to give you the preview and all our thoughts, predictions, everything about it. So you guys don't want to miss that. Plus, we're covering that all-important Monday Night Raw, which I actually got a chance to be at live in Dallas. So that was a lot of fun. I'll kind of get into that a little bit. Plus, we are going to talk about other great stuff, some big news topics this week, including, is Sasha Banks going to become face? Oh, that's a good question. Plus, we're going to get into some NXT stuff along with tough enough people possibly joining that NXT roster. And just there's so much. You don't want to miss quick hits. We got to cover TNA, ROH, and of course, you can't forget the fact that we're going to crown a superstar of the week this week. So we are doing a lot of great stuff that we always do, but plus some extra. So you don't want to miss a second of the show. But before we get this thing started, guys, I have to mention a couple of things. The first thing is I want to address it. I know it's not our sports show, Sean, and I know we're not doing football to football right now. We'll be doing that later tonight. But I have to address that Paul has got 10 out of 10 in our college football pick'em this past week. Congratulations, Paul. Great work. You are kicking the crap out of all of us in those rankings. That is awesome. I mean,
we need to have Paul on the college show.
I know.
Guys, here's the thing. I don't even watch college football. This is me just clicking blindly, going, this looks good. This looks good. This looks good.
I don't watch it either, and I'm not doing as good as you.
Paul, I have delved myself into college football this season. I have stayed up late on Saturday. I've watched game after game on Saturday nights. I mean, I have put myself in the mix, just paying more attention than I've ever have. And you're just killing me. So I'm going to be calling you, hey, what's your blind pick this week? Especially this week. They're hard. They're really hard to pick this week. So, but no, and it's congratulations to Paul. That is really cool. And I'm proud. And the other thing, Sean, and this is something cool. I think Paul can definitely attest to this. And I'm sure he probably worked this day and heard a lot about it. But, this past Wednesday was Back to the Future Day, and it was cool. Everybody was talking about Back to the Future 2. It was such a fun movie and all those things. I mean, was it something that you found like everybody at work, everybody was talking about? Because for me, it was work, home, everywhere was talking about it.
We weren't really talking about it all that much, but IDW Publishing got the rights to do a Back to the Future comic book that they had the first issue release on Back to the Future Day, which was kind of cool.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
USA Today did a fake headline, kind of like that would have looked like Back to the Future and all that kind of stuff too. It's cool.
The Jimmy Kimmel thing was pretty awesome as well.
So okay, so Kimmel.
Except the Cubs just failed on that whole.
Yeah.
thing.
Well, I mean,
They're the Cubs. What can you expect?
yeah.
There's a few things that are flawed in the movie, and
I
there's a
shouldn't
few
say
things that
too
are real.
much. I need Patrick's help later this week.
Yeah,
so-
no, we feel bad. Patrick is a great guy, and we love him, and we love, respect those Cubs. They just didn't get the job done. But overall, I mean, it's so cool to watch the Back to the Future stuff and see what actually transpired, what actually happened, and of course some of the things that they said were going to happen that didn't. So, and of course, there's a History Channel show if you guys want to check it out. Back to the Present, that was pretty cool too. So I just had to mention those things. There was some big topics this week, and a few things we wanted to kind of delve into. But I just want to say this: I'm sure Koshida had a lot to say. I can't read Japanese, but I'm sure that vest was feeling pretty good on that day. But anyway, guys, well, we got a lot of stuff to cover today, so why don't we go ahead and jump into it? Let's go ahead and get into some quick hits.
Hold on. All right.
It's time for wrestling news. Quick hits.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and get into this. Sorry. That's what happens when you were responding to a friend on text while you were doing a podcast.
You talk about me. No,
I
I'm
know.
joking.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to be Sean and do two things at one time, and I get onto him all the time about it. Let's start with this. Now, this is some interesting stuff. Now, Shane Douglas, we all know him, and of course, he was a big ECW wrestler. And of course, he had a few other great things going on in his career, but this is one thing that he is kind of adding to that career. He is starting up a fed called Classic Wrestling. Now, this is a fed that's going to have Jake Roberts, Tommy Dreamer, and a few other names involved in it. They're actually going to be training some wrestlers, as well as adding some to the the whole thing. And they're planning on having a pretty decent sized roster. But this is the cool thing about it. They're actually going to have medical and retirement for these guys, which is something that is laughable to most veterans in the business, and of course promoters for sure. So that is something that's very interesting about this, and they are going to be out of Las Vegas. So they are trying to get this thing together. They're trying to do it to help wrestlers, but not only that, create a great show. They want to make it special, and they pretty much already have TV planned right away as soon as they get this thing going. So I don't know how all that transpired. That is really crazy, especially since, there's another guy out there, Jeff Jarrett, who can barely get his show on TV in another country besides the U.S. So I'm just curious, Paul. I don't know if you probably read a little bit about this. What do you think about this whole thing?
I read a little bit about it. I watched they have a little trailer up on YouTube, like it's a little 30-second spot. It's an interesting idea. It's one of those you'll have to believe it when you see it, because the reason why it's so unheard of for wrestlers to have retirement plans and all that is because none of them really stuck with the company all the way through. So I'm like, what happens when a guy leaves? Or what happens, when something else happens, right? So obviously the medical plan makes sense, but retirement is a weird one.
This is a good thing. I really like the fact that they're getting retirements and all this kind of stuff. But honestly, as Greg DeMarco says where I asked this in the group, this isn't going to work. I just think that this is a bunch of hoping and whatever, and glad that they get TV faster than GFW in the U.S., but I just don't see it. We're going to all of a sudden wrestle old school and think that that's going to all of a sudden draw like a zillion viewers. That's not the problem. The wrestling is not the problem.
Yeah, and it is crazy, and you point that out. They want to train and do it old school. This is going to be old school type wrestling.
And not to mention, don't we already have NXT for a lot of the old school stuff?
to an extent, but in my personal opinion, they still trying to lean towards the new age. They do a little old school, but it's not all old school. I'm guessing that they're really trying to get back into the grappling, get into rest holds, get into these things that, this generation honestly says is boring. I don't know about you, Paul, but that's what I think about when I think of old school. I think of JR's generation.
Yeah, I go like 70s, 60s, 50s. So you can go all the way back, George Hackenschmidt, like back in the early 1900s. Just...
Okay, so what, like 70-year-olds are going to watch this then? Because
I don't know who's going to watch this.
Seriously, I can watch some stuff from the 70s, but when you get back older than the 70s, I just quit it. It gets to a point where you have to actually sort of be entertaining.
Yeah. So Sean, you're saying that you don't want the finisher to be just a simple suplex?
There's nothing wrong with that. Ishii makes a suplex look awesome. I'm just saying, there's nothing wrong with the suplex being the finisher. It's all of the stuff getting to the suplex that's the problem. It's just very mundane.
20-minute holds. You don't want to see that?
Who wants to see that?
I get you. And it's just very interesting. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of old wrestlers talk about the old days, especially JR. If you ever listen to JR's podcast, he talks a lot about this. And not that he's...
JR sometimes is like a broken record about how...
Yeah. But, you wonder how that would actually take place. And so if this federation actually gets running, we'll actually get a chance to see if it succeeds. But, that is yet to be seen. Until then, we'll hold off on our judgment. We have to see it before we can believe it, right, guys? Let's talk about something else, though. Smackdown. Now, we've heard that Smackdown is supposed to get rejuvenated. It's supposed to be bigger and better. And, Vince is really wanting this thing to kind of turn around because they're moving it over to the USA Network. It's going to be, special. Let's just say it that way. Well, there's been consideration of making it live. We've even seen Jerry Lawler tweet out some things kind of hinting that SmackDown could be live, which means it would have to move from Thursdays to Tuesdays when SmackDown is taped. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm interested. But there's a lot of competition on Tuesday nights on TV. What do you guys think about this? Would you consider SmackDown being live a good thing or bad thing?
Live TV is sort of a catch-22. It's cool because obviously everything's happening live. You get the reactions right then and there. It's costly, and the way that they do SmackDown, where they edit the crap out of it, you're not going to get what you're used to getting on SmackDown for the last couple of years, which might be a very large culture shock for some people.
True that. What do you think, Sean?
Here's the thing with live is cool because it automatically gives an organic feel to the show that is not there with SmackDown because they can't edit the crap out of it, as Paul said. They can't mess with the crowd, so the reactions that you're going to get from the crowd are real. So if they don't like something, they're going to tell you. There's no editing it to make it seem like they like it. There's no editing the crowd to make it seem like they're more pumped for something than they really are. There's a lot of stuff they can. They have to make the show more important now because they get one take to do it. They have to put more emphasis on everything that they're doing, just like with Raw. They have to be careful of what segments they put on because if somebody screws up, you can't just go back and go, okay, we'll just read that later. There's a lot of things that happen with live, as Paul noted with it being the catch-22. But I think overall, it will give this different feel to the show that it needs. Because right now, it just feels so canned. It feels so like, I don't need to watch it at all. Mm-hmm. And maybe it being live and it juices up the guys more. And whatever Vince or whoever the hell is going to be running this thing puts more emphasis on it. Whatever, just let's see. Let's see if they even do it because they can decide to only have the first show be live and then they don't do live anymore. But it just being on Tuesdays is a cool thing because now you can directly lead from Raw to SmackDown. Go, well, tomorrow we're gonna have. But imagine this now: you're gonna have. When there's a pay-per-view, you're going to have 8 hours straight of wrestling. So, You know,
Because that's what
a lot
WWE
to-
needs. It's just 8 hours of straight wrestling.
It's just-
Oh yeah, no, I don't know. I could see it being a positive thing because after a pay per view, especially if there's a cliffhanger, everybody's excited about Raw the next night. They want to come and check it out. This could be something where even when you're not leading out of a pay per view, leading after a Raw, that cliffhanger could be answered right away. People don't have to wait till Thursday, and they remember that it's the next night. Whereas if you're busy that week, there's a chance like today, I promise you guys, and this is the honest truth, I don't watch SmackDown. It's just the truth. It's because not a whole lot happens anyway. But my point being is I was going to make a conservative effort to watch SmackDown for one reason: Tyler Breeze's debut. I wanted to see it. I was excited about it. I couldn't wait. Guess what? I missed it. I forgot. I was busy this week. Didn't even think about it.
It also comes out at the same time Thursday Night Football comes on.
Well,
we
do. Yeah.
We do post games for those now, and it's
yeah, that did
we have to
happen.
pay attention more to that than the.
Yeah, and that is true. We know the sports show does kind of mess that up, but it's okay. Still, I would have recorded it anyway, just so I could see it. Now I have to go on the internet, find it on that, and I can find it. That's easy. It's not a problem.
That's why I just do automatic record.
I know. I don't do that for SmackDown though. Sorry, they're not going to get that
smart,
respect. Not
But
getting
then
that
again,
respect.
I don't watch as much regular TV as I used to. So if I had like 4 of the Thursday shows recording, I wouldn't have that on automatic record anymore. So it's
Oof. No, too much is going on.
Yeah.
But I would just be deleting SmackDowns all the time, just for not watching them. But my point being is, that's the problem here, and so this could maybe fix that. Maybe you could have a cliffhanger after Raw, and they don't have to wait. Tuesday night it happens. They start off the show talking about whatever the cliffhanger was, and it's not a big deal. But like you said, Sean, that's a lot of wrestling after a pay-per-view, so we'll see if that's successful. But I do want to talk about this Tyler Breeze thing. I mean, Tyler Breeze has debuted on SmackDown, and Summer Rae's going to be tied up with him. That was what we were hearing. This actually looks like it's taking place. I'm
she's
kind
taking
of
pictures with him and stuff already.
yeah. So, I mean, there you go. And so, I mean, we've been a fan of this guy for a long time on NXT. How do you guys feel about this situation? Do you like the fact that he debuted on SmackDown? Do you like the fact that he's tied with Summer Rae? Is this the right way to bring him in?
Gosh, I don't know. It's so hard with WWE and these new debuts because so few of them have actually worked out. Even if they have a decent storyline going for them at the start, it just sort of peters out. So it's hard to get your hopes up. But I mean, I want to think this is going to work. Summer Rae did some fine work, I think, with Rusev, or Ruru, as we will affectionately call him from now until we all die. But you never know. I guess him and Breeze, or her and Breeze, could find a niche and find a place and make their waves.
I only got to see like the first part of it where she basically introduces him and says that Tyler Breeze is a real man, talking to Dolph Ziggler on Miz TV. So after Dolph Ziggler tells her that he's just not into her and whatever, I wonder how long we're gonna take before we get to the whole Dolph and Tyler kind of look like each other. They have a feud or something.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what happens with that. Now that they've debuted him, there was a lot of talk before this that perhaps he was going to be the guy to answer the U.S. Open Challenge from Cena. Do you still think that he does it, or maybe they have another rabbit out of the hat to pull?
I think they have another rabbit. It'd be interesting because I've picked the mystery guy to go over Cena here. So if it is Tyler Breeze, that's kind of neat. But I just don't know if they want to put him in that position so soon. And there are also bigger names they could pull out of the hat to do this too, like a Joe, like a whoever else they can come up with, or somebody on the main roster even.
Where's Hell in a Cell at again? I forgot.
Place.
Yeah. It's sad. None of us know, and sadly, I don't care.
Well, it might make a difference as to who they're gonna pull out of the thing.
Los Angeles in the Staples Center.
That could be anybody then.
Yeah. Jeez. That's a good. Yeah. I don't know. You're right. It could be anybody. Let's just say Jericho. Oh. No.
That'd be cool.
It won't
No.
be. It's just because it's Fozzy tour and all that. But yeah, I would like it. So, it is kind of, interesting to see all these different things. I just talking about Tyler Breeze's debut, and, we basically have, new additions to NXT, it seems like, here in there. And recently we got some more signings to NXT. Some of these names are actually names, if you watch Tough Enough, Mata and Daria and Patrick. Those three names were actually, big on the show. And so all three of them will be making their NXT appearances. Of course, you won't see them on the, show, but at least you may get a chance to see them on this new show that's coming out. And so, I don't forget the name of the show, Sean. Remind me the name of that big show.
Tough enough.
No, the show that
Breaking Ground, I believe, is the one he's talking
Ground.
Breaking Ground.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, exactly. So you may get a chance to see them on Breaking Ground. There's that possibility. But I mean,
the person we have seen officially on there is Josh.
Josh.
Of the Tough Enough people. He's been in the trailer. I don't know about anybody else. I think this is all pre-done. I don't know if any of that stuff's going to be done new. So
It's gonna be cool though. I don't care what it is. It's gonna be a neat show, and we've been asking for it for a long time now. But I mean, we have those signings to the NXT roster, which is exciting, just because of the fact that I think they have some potential there. But saying all that, I mean, we also have some other people rumored maybe entering into the WWE. We talked a little bit about James Storm showing up at NXT. So that is, somebody from TNA. Bubby Ray Dudley
he was not at the tapings they had tonight. So don't expect to see him in the next round of things.
Yeah, so you just
nobody gets their hopes up. We're gonna see him all the time now.
Yeah, exactly. But Bubba Ray has kind of hinted that maybe Velvet Sky could be joining WWE. So of course, I'm sure she'll be the one going to NXT next, if that's true at all. So you've got these names linked to WWE, and of course, most of them have to go through NXT. What do you think about it? What do you think about the Tough Enough kids? And of course, what do you think about Velvet Sky? I mean, do you think any of these would be successful?
I didn't watch Tough Enough because it was trash. So I don't know how good any of these people are.
Smart man that doesn't watch trash.
I know.
Yeah.
Jeez, he's so smart.
I don't know how good any of these people are, so that'll be on you guys. But Velvet Sky certainly has the look that WWE looks for when it comes to divas. She's not awful in the ring, and maybe about an NXT with Sarah Del Rey for a while can help her improve. So I think it's a interesting decision if they decide to go that way. And another sort of high-profile chick they could sign to keep the division afloat there in NXT if they're worried about star power.
Sean, you did watch that trash. So, what...
Yes, I watched every episode of that trash. I watched every episode of the after-show thing of that trash, too. Look, Mata was one of the most promising guys. Probably the most promising as far as just initial, wow factor, his look, he had the most actual sort of character of all of them. He was the one that was improving a lot before he got taken off. So to me, I think he deserves a lot of. I was surprised that they waited this long. We also got Patrick get signed too, which that was one of those ones that I wondered if he pissed off too many people with all his stuff and he wouldn't get signed, but we'll have to see. He's already pissed off an indie promoter that he no-showed his show, but because he got signed, but we'll have to see. Daria, we never really got to see much of her because she got eliminated really early. She was the MMA chick that has a extensive MMA background, and that's what's funny. They signed her, but the guy that had the MMA background, the Tanner, that was Daniel Bryan's favorite because he's sort of like him, hasn't been signed yet. So.
Tanner's such a I don't know what he's like in real life, but he was such a small little guy. And I know he's like Daniel Bryan, yes, but he didn't actually exhibit the abilities.
Had no personality.
Yeah, the personality, in which they said Daniel Bryan didn't either. You got to give him credit for that, but I just did not see the athleticism that Daniel Bryan has. and I don't know. I'm sure he was probably a project for Daniel Bryan. He saw a lot of himself in the kid, even though the kid was not like him. I don't know. We may see Tanner. I don't know. I'm talking a lot of trash, but he may actually end up there. But yeah, you make some great points there, Sean. And I think the intriguing one is Patrick, just because he was the most experienced going into Tough Enough. He had a lot of experience in the ring before he even showed up. So where the rest of them did not have as much experience, but Moda, he's a guy. He's a big Egyptian guy that could definitely work in the WWE. Not only does he kind of come in with a gimmick alone, but he looks the part. And I think if he got trained well and didn't show the green, I think he'd be.
Patrick was the one that came in with all the being in the Indies before and all that, and being the guy that watched everybody and whatever. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we're talking about people entering the WWE. There's been talk that Goldust may be returning. This week is actually his 20th anniversary since his debut. So that is great. Hope he does come back. I'm excited if he does show up, and there's also talk of another guy coming back to WWE, someone we really thought would never, ever grace us with his appearance on a WWE show ever again, or in a WWE ring alone, and that is El Patron. That is right. We are getting word that this guy is actually considering and really thinking hard about joining WWE again. I think there's a lot of things into this. I'm sure the payday is one of them, but not only that, I think there's probably some other things a part of this. But, Paul, considering what happened to El Patron, or, if you want to call him by his name of WWE, Alberto Del Rio, what is going on with this? Because he left in such a controversial matter. Why do you think he would even consider coming back?
I wish I had a good answer, Gary, because I don't. This perplexes me to no end. Obviously, the guy who was being very racist towards him is not with the company anymore, but I still don't know why you would want to take yourself back into that sort of atmosphere where there's so much of those bad feelings left around and what have you. So, like you, the payday has got to be great. Like, they must have seen him go in AAA, and they must have started doing some numbers, and they're like, well, he's still moving the dial over there in Mexico, and we need a guy, and here we are.
Yeah, you're right, and that's got to be it. If you ask me, it's got to be about that dial. It's got to be about the fact that WWE still does not have a strong Hispanic or Latino presence, and they could definitely use it. And Alberto Del Rio was a big one, and there was people that respected him there. The Latin community loved him, and they still do. They support him wherever he goes. So, Sean, do you think that's the biggest case here? Because we have some other Latinos on this roster, and they're just not stepping up.
Let's be honest. Do you think they're really going to do something with Kalisto? Probably not. Sin Cara Numero Dos is not gonna, light the world on fire. Who else? They're still waiting for Carlito to say yes, so they can bring back Primo and Epico. Who the hell else is there?
El Torito.
Yeah, that guy. The Bull might be the only one that's. I think Lillian Garcia at this point has a better shot. Let's not forget Nikki and Brie are also Latin, so that counts for something.
True.
But that's on the female side. On the male side, that's where they need the Latin stars. Actually, Nikki was in a fiesta signing autographs in Dallas, so that's definitely shows your Latin right there. You're inside the fiesta.
I was wondering where Paul was. Oh, okay.
Nailed it.
Paul was just waiting to go inside that fiesta anyway. Has there, besides Ray, who, and Eddie, who were, anomalies in themselves because of, I think if they can bring Del Rio back with Ricardo and the cars and all the stuff that got him over in the first place, I think you've got what you wanted. If you try to do Del Rio by himself with nothing, you're gonna get like once everybody gets over the whole he's back and all that, which is gonna be pretty quick. I just don't. I see it eventually becoming the same thing. You know, you've got to go back full force and say, okay, what worked, what didn't work. All right, are you still friends with Ricardo? Cool, let's get him in here. Like, let's do this, let's do that. Like, the thing is, you know, he's going to be able to command a lot more because of the star power that he gained in Lucha Underground and AAA and all that stuff. So, not only are they going to have to pay him more money, I think he can call more shots now, which is something, you know, WWE's going to have to acquiesce a little bit, maybe, and they're going to have to, I don't know if they can shoot him down the card as quickly as they seemed to previously. So
yeah, as long as they don't make the same mistake that WCW made of, hey, you get creative control.
They're not going to do that.
Yeah, I know they don't, but that's just terrifying. I heard someone talk about that the other day, and I thought, wow, that was the dumbest thing ever.
Right, that's what happened with Bret Hart, right? He had sort of creative control over his stuff when the screw job happened. So,
so you're right. But you know, we'll have to find out. I kind of honestly hope that Alberto Del Rio is a return. I hope he does, and I'm a Gold Dust. I wish Goldberg would return, but that's a naysaying thing. I don't expect anything out of that. But anyway, let's move on to one last thing before we move into some rapid hits. I want to go ahead and talk about this Sasha Banks thing. Now, there has been talk that WWE is really considering turning her face, and this is different because in NXT she was such a great heel. She's done such a great job of it. Not only is she just a great performer, but I mean, really, the charisma, there's the whole total package. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm a little bit leery of this. I want to see it before, I guess I could judge it too much, but I think she's such a great heel. It's kind of going to be a little bit nerve-wracking seeing if she can actually turn this thing around and go to the other side. What do you think, Paul?
I think Sasha Banks is an insanely talented woman. And as much as I love her as a heel, and if they want to turn her face based on all the reaction she's been getting recently, it might be worth a shot. Especially if you're still trying to find your way through what you're going to do after all the teams are done. With what's going on in the Divas division right now, then if you want her to be a standout face, then go for it.
She's the boss, Sean. That's her gimmick. I mean, she's that, I'm better than you, I'm over you kind of character, and now changing that around, it's going to be hard to use the boss thing, and then you're going to have to find something else. Do you think this can be successful? Do you think just her ability alone is going to help her through that?
She is probably the best diva on the roster right now. If they don't make her start pandering and all this other stuff that they had the faces do a lot, if they let her just be herself and let the this is my problem. This is the problem with WWE. Period. Right? Like, they don't let their wrestlers just be themselves and kind of just let New Day is the first one in a long time where we're just going to let them go out there and do whatever, and let's see what happens, right? So why not just let Sasha just keep doing what she's doing? If she gets the Sasha chance and whatever, then you just put her against heels. That's all you need to do. You don't need to make her start pandering on the microphone. You don't need to make her change her character any. You don't need to make her start coming out and giving the sunglasses to the kids. Don't do any of that stuff. Just, you don't cheat, and you start facing heels. It's not that hard. I mean, come on now. I just hate it when they start going the complete other way, and then it makes you start not liking all the things that you liked about the character in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and I think that's my biggest fear. I'm afraid that they're going to do that, and I'm afraid it's going to be corny. And I'm just do not want her to fall and people's opinions of her change because of her turning face. I think she's so talented at being a heel. I'm just so nervous. I really, really am. So we'll have to see how this all works out. But I think that they've got to be very careful because you could do a lot of damage to somebody this young in her career. and that's what I don't want to see happen. She's just now getting her momentum going. Let's not snuff it out before the fire heats up. Well, guys, talking about fire, let's jump into some rapid hits. How about it? All right. So quickly, we'll just run through these, and you guys give us your quick, short answers. Ronda Rousey on the Stone Cold podcast. Do you think that should happen?
Yes. Ronda Rousey's an interesting person. WWE clearly wants to use her for something. I think this is a nice way to do that.
If you can't get her for wrestling, why not? It's not like Stone Cold will probably have him on his audio version if they don't get him for that. So
WB is considering telling all their tryouts that if you get a second tryout, you've got to be a big name in the indies. Otherwise, you're not getting a second look from us.
I think it's a move that makes sense. It might cost him some people down the road, but if you don't impress on the first run and you manage to go out there and prove them wrong, you're probably worth a second look. It's just sort of help them sift through the millions of talents out there.
Yeah, I think that's a smart thing. When you're they're still I think anybody that's stupid and thinks they're not still going to take any. They just had a freaking rugby player try out for them. They just had a offensive lineman. They got released by an NFL team. Decide he wants to go over to the Performance Center. They're still going to get guys that come in from that kind of background, and then Triple H is going to look at him and say yes or no or whatever. That's not going to go away. Let's not pretend that that's just not going to happen. They are a rare breed as far as what Tyra said as far as the wrestling big guy, I think. But you are more likely than not, and NXT is kind of full of them right now. These indie guys that kind of had a name or sort of had a name or ranging from all the different spectrums, and that's what's kind of selling for NXT right now, and that's kind of what's sort of big for WWE right now is all their young talents are going to be those indie names coming forward. And I think I don't know if this really is from Vince or if it's just Triple H's, that's who Kane and Siemens getting for NXT, and then Vince is gonna have to just deal with that's who we got to deal with. But I think it's easy to. Again, we have to realize that Vince's era is kind of starting to die out, right? Eventually we're gonna see Triple H's era of guys start sifting through, and it's going to be Triple H, the one that kind of has a hand in all of these guys doing something. And why not go ahead and have the head start there, right? Instead of trying to do things that in Vince's model when at some point he's not going to be there. So,
Randy Orton dislocated his shoulder, so there will be no longer a tag match with him involved at Hell in a Cell. Do you think his absence, along with John Cena, is going to affect WWE?
Maybe in the short term. I think in the long term, WWE needs to look at this as a chance to grow some new stars, like they should every time these two guys go missing. So hopefully they're managing to capitalize on this in all the right ways, and so whenever these guys do come back, they have a much stronger product for it.
I think this is a blessing in disguise for the WWE, as Paul pretty much noted that, hey, you're going to have to use some different people, whether you like it or not. You're going to have to put them in prominent positions. And, it's not the worst thing in the world. So, to me, I kind of like this, because now you have to see what a world without Randy Orton and John Cena looks like, because eventually you're going to have to prepare for that future, just like I talked about in the last question. So, it also kind of sucks he hurt his shoulder taking out the garbage. So,
TNA is reinstating Bram. That's right, because of the fact that his court case was
Wait, Gary, I just heard that he signed another multi-year deal.
Oh, boy. Breaking news. He signed a deal after yesterday, signing another deal for TNA. So there you go. But anyway, he is reinstated. What do you think about it, especially after the type of case that he was involved in, which was domestic dispute?
I mean, unless something happened in the case where it's gotten thrown out or the charges were dropped or whatever, this is I mean, it's TNA, so I don't know if this is really a giant issue for them, but it can make you look bad if he does come out and being convicted and all that stuff.
It looks like the stuff did get dropped or it got resolved or whatever the hell, their term for that. So cool for TNA, whatever. Hey, he's a good talent for them, and why not? It's not like it's gonna hurt him.
Ezekiel Jackson is letting everybody know he is not retired. Those rumors are false. Should he be retired?
Maybe? I don't know.
Why? He was actually pretty good in Lucha Underground.
That's true. I enjoyed him, personally. And one last thing, guys. Mr. Khali is back, at least with TNA while they're in India, and he is helping them find some talent within those, those walls of India. What do you guys think about that?
It's fairly interesting. I think Malabali Shera was one of the guys out of this wrestling school that came over to TNA during the Ring Ka King thing. So, I mean, it's a smart move because TNA's been trying to do stuff with India for a long time, and hopefully this works out for him.
Who else were they going to sign from India? I mean, are they going to get, what's his face? Why can't I think of his name right now? The dude in 3MB.
I think what's his face was good. I mean,
yeah. So are you gonna get? I think Jinder Mahal is actually in Japan doing like UWF stuff or whatever. I can't talk right now. UWF stuff. So actually, he's probably in a better situation than doing something with TNA. So who else are you gonna get? Great Khali he did good stuff for WWE, and he's a draw for India, but good on TNA for whatever he is doing for them. If he's wrestling, I fear for.
Oh dear God, let's hope not.
He's gonna show up in the ring at when those India shows.
There you go. That's a perfect response.
It's gonna be booty, but
Talking about booty, we are gonna get out of this because we gotta talk about booty later.
I can't this. That's all Anaya says now. It's like, I made that joke on Facebook as a joke. She hasn't ever watched the New Day, but I swear I feel like somewhere she has, because all she ever says is, "This is booty. That's booty." I'm like. God, stop.
How do you not die laughing every time she says it?
Yeah.
I do until she says that I'm booty. Then I'm like, oh, man. Now I feel terrible.
You look at her and say, Naya, you got it wrong. I am legend. Oh, anyway. That is the end of Quick.
Here? What the hell?
Yeah. That is the end of Quick Hits, everybody. We've had a fun doing them, but that is the news for this week. We'll get into some more big news next week. But right now, we have got to move on to Monday Night Raw. And before we do, we just want to let you know that Monday Night Raw is brought to you by Math Tumble. Math Tumble is a fun game that you can play with your kids and play yourself, and it is on your phone. That's right. Download the app if you have an Android, and it is soon coming to your iPhone. It is a game that is really, honestly, successful for your whole family because it gives you math. It helps you learn math. It helps you to have fun playing games with math. So go check that game out. Download it today. And, of course, hey, you may see our faces on there somewhere on the bottom of the screen. So, hey, we want you to go check that out.
Nothing better than math.
I know. Don't you love it? So, all right.
I suck at. But hey, you can get better at it than me by playing Math Tumble.
Exactly. So we're going to move on to some Monday Night Raw, which I was lucky enough to be there, and we'll kind of get into all the stuff that was actually live and some of the stuff that maybe Sean and Paul saw on TV. We'll be right back.
WWE Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, I cut it off on accident. So, anyway, it's just the Monday Night Raw parts. It's all right. Well, Gary, you were there before the thing started. How was the atmosphere in the arena? I heard that it wasn't completely sold out, but as Raw was beginning to, how was everything? Like, just how is it feeling, just being there and the stuff that we don't get to see when we're on TV or on television?
I'll say this, me and my friend Lance went to the show, and I have to thank him for sure for encouraging me to go because, at first, before he even asked me to go, I wasn't really considering it. I said, I've got money, that I'm going to be using for other things, and then he asked me, and I said, you know what, I never get a chance to hang out with him, so we're going to go. And so actually someone got me the tickets for my birthday, so that was nice, and so I didn't technically pay for them, but it was a great time. We showed up, and we got there early enough, of course, to watch Superstars, if whatever that show is, especially with the matches that we got. But, it was quiet at first, people still trickling in. You're right, it wasn't a sellout. There were still some seats, especially around us. I was able to actually move over a seat and give some people some room because it wasn't, but it was still a good crowd. Don't get me wrong; they still had a pretty solid showing. But it just really the beginning of the Superstars and all that was kind of boring. So I don't blame people. But when that first part of the show happened, people were going nuts. When Stone Cold Steve Austin's music hit, that glass broke, people were going crazy. You couldn't help but be in that moment. And so, that was a big deal. The crowd was louder, I think, at that moment than it was the entire rest of the night. So, besides that, energetic crowd, but not as energetic as I was thinking it would be later on in this show.
All right. So let's start there. Gary mentioned it. You bring out Stone Cold to start the thing. Glass breaks, everybody goes nuts. You have Brock and Taker there to sell the main event of the pay-per-view. You have Paul Heyman there as well. You have Shawn Michaels later. You have, Dudley Boys are technically in that whole, they're signed talent, but they're also in the older sort of crowd. You brought a lot of old guys back to everything. You brought back Michaels to be to kind of fill up the whole thing with the Hell in a Cell, talk about Reigns and Wyatt and all that. Is it good or is it a good sign or a bad sign that apparently it looks like having all these old guys there really didn't do a whole lot for the ratings?
Here's what this Raw felt like. It was all the writers in the back, and they're sitting around, they're going, guys, we're getting beat bad. What do we do? And they just go, you know what, guys, it's time to make some phone calls. We're going to throw some stuff at the wall and hope something sticks. And that's your Raw. That is your entire Raw.
Yeah, you got it right, Paul, for the most part. And, it was exciting. It's always fun to have those guys back. But let's be honest. HBK is around at least twice a year. At least. If they don't sprinkle him in other places. Ric Flair is there so much, he should be on the main roster. Let's be honest. That's not super special. Besides that, Stone Cold Steve Austin, of course, let me go back. Undertaker, yes, that's special, but once again, he's been more prevalent than years past. So he's not as special. He still is to an extent, but not as special. But Stone Cold Steve Austin's appearance on Monday Night Raw was the most spectacular special thing. And that was worth being there in person. It was worth just having fun, getting a chance to see him as his music hit. And it was great. But, on TV, people loved it. But it's sad, really, that's the one guy you point at and say, that's different. The rest of us is not different. It's the same people over and over again. And it's obviously lost its luster. Stone Cold Steve Austin, I think, honestly, did those writers a favor and showed up on the first part of the show. I really and truly believe this, that Stone Cold Steve Austin was never going to be on the show. He doesn't do this. He always shows up to the city. He does the podcast at the arena, at that live event. But he never goes on TV. I think these ratings have everything to do with it. And plus, it is Dallas, Texas. It is special. But I really, truly believe, even in Dallas, Texas, he would not be on the air on Monday Night Raw unless the ratings were this low. And Vince is like, please, I need you, man.
it's great to see him. It's just one of these things where I think the people tuning in go, "Oh, great! I saw this in 1998." Well, the problem is, he's not going to be there every week, and even then, at some point, like the new fans get tired of the nostalgia factor too. Like I don't know if it's good or bad that either it's a good thing that we've kind of moved on from that era of wrestler, or it's a bad thing because that era of wrestler was in one of the biggest eras ever, and they still can't draw. Does it just mean that the product is that bad that they can't even draw people, or it just means that we moved on from that? I don't know. I mean, what would you lean one way or the other on that, or?
I think there is a difference in eras, but it doesn't have anything to do with what's happening in the ring. It has everything to do with what's going on behind the scenes. We talk about it a lot, and I'll bring it up whenever we get to the Hell in a Cell preview too, but the writing has just been so uninspired. This is probably the most uninspired WWE has been since I started watching, and that's a long time.
Wow. Yeah. It is amazing, and to me, I think that they have kind of put themselves in some places that they can't get out of, and that's a problem. And I think they're trying to figure it out, but they've kind of pigeonholed themselves. And you know what? Bringing up new talent can help ease that, but once again, you've got to use that talent right and correct. And so. But then again, look at the difference in the eras. Look at the different things that are going on. Today is a lot different. Social media has affected it. Ruru and Lana have definitely showcased that. The writers had one thing planned, and one day their entire thing went down to the toilet, and they had to regroup. And I think this is a problem we're seeing too. People are harder to please now with social media, and so those writers have to work harder, and I don't know if they're willing to work harder or they just don't want to bring up new things. They want to rehash things.
True. Well, speaking we already talked about the opening stuff with Taker and Brock and everything during all that, but how do you think that they went with the whole Seth Rollins and HBK, and kind of alluding to Rollins and HBK having similarities with each other and all that? Do you think that was a good interaction there? You think it did anything for Seth, or?
I think parts of it were good. Like HBK telling Seth that if he had $1 for every time somebody said somebody was the next HBK, he'd be a richer man. Probably one of the best lines of the evening. It was a little long, but that's okay. It didn't really feel like the segment did anything for anybody overall. It was just kind of neat to see them both in there together. But other than that, I don't know if this helped Seth get over anymore or anything like that.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I don't think it really helped him get over. It was a fun interaction. And I think, these kind of interactions are needed. I think it was, it had its place. It really did. But, it's just that. It just had its place. It was not a milestone, if you will, because of the fact that there was no match involved. It was just verbal, back and forth. So, sitting there live watching this whole thing take place, you're excited, you're happy, you get to hear, Shawn Michaels talk about, that what Paul said about I'd be a billionaire if I had all that, and I love that line too. And just to see everything that took place. But, what's sad is the interaction was fine, but what was more entertaining to me was Shawn Michaels eating the pizza from the kid walking down the aisle. I think that was more entertaining than having the back and forth with Seth, because Seth is great and everything, but Seth kind of has the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, he also did thank that kid on Twitter, by the way. So that's probably made his day. Well, but Mr. Brandon Bisco being is on the line here.
Hey, Brandon.
Hey, how's it going? Let me just say with that whole thing, and you mentioned it, Gary, with how Seth is kind of, it's the same thing over and over again with him. And that seems to be a theme with a lot of guys in today's WWE. Do you guys think that's, I know you guys were talking about it, how, the ratings different and all of that between, today's WWE and like the Attitude Era and Ruthless Aggression Era and whatnot. Do you think that it's the wrestlers not being able, like, being so similar because they're getting written the same thing over and over again? Or do you think it's the writers not having the talent that they did back in the day? Or is it a combination of both?
I don't know. Like, I mean, I'd be more abject to say it's on the writers because having watched a lot of these guys for a long time, it's clearly not their fault. And there are times where they're not doing well and all that, what have you. I think the writing has just been it's uninspired. Like I said, it's the same. Like you were saying, it's the same stuff over and over again. And I mean, feuds don't feel different from one feud to another. Sometimes, everywhere once in a while, you'll find one that really captures something. It's like, yeah, that was good. But 80% of the time, you're still sitting there going, man, what did either person gain out of this?
I know it was a completely different reasoning, and and they gave him a lot more leeway and whatnot. But do you think it would be better if the writers took a back seat, or the wrestlers basically pulled a coup, basically pulled a CM Punk and said, "We're going to do our own shit"?
They're not going to do that. Number one. Number two, Vince is the guy that controls the writers, not the writers controlling Vince.
Right.
So we can talk about all the writers all we want. It's not Vince is the one that decides what goes on Raw.
Yeah.
So the writers can give Vince all the crap. And if he says, no, I'm doing this, this is what's happening. It's just like, look, I think we need to give the writers a break here because they might come up with all the great ideas in the world. But I think it's like, you can't have 25 people talking to one guy.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. The only thing that I don't understand is how, and I know, with everything that happened and the whole PG and all of that, Vince has changed monumentally. But how does a guy that goes from creating one of the edgiest shows in the world go from that to being so one-dimensional that it's a complete joke? How do you go from one extreme to the other in a matter of 10 years?
Well, the country changed.
Well, yeah, but
you can't do shows like that really anymore. I mean, look. Do we see really Jackass on TV anymore? I mean, They come out with a movie every once in a blue moon now.
You still see Family Guy. You still see a lot of edgy shows, and you see networks willing to take risks with, some edgier shows like FX and AMC and whatnot, doing more risque stuff.
Mm-hmm. Right, but Family Guy's just parroting stuff. I mean, I mean, you could say WWE's almost become a parody of itself, but I mean, they can't get any more parody than they already are.
Yeah.
So.
Well, WWE, they're so fixated with the PG era. They're so fixated in family. They're not going to let the edginess come back. And I agree, Brandon. I mean, that's going to help an audience that is, kind of left the WWE, honestly. An audience of younger men that, they're still a great group there, but the mass group that we used to have in the Attitude Era is no longer there. Guys aren't sitting in sports bars all around this country talking about what happened on the Raw.
Exactly. They alienated their primary fan base to try to build a larger, try to cater to the lowest common denominator, basically.
They're pleasing soccer moms. Let's be honest. Yeah, I mean, they really are. And they're pleasing. Hey, you want to just talk about the Revolution? Why are they focusing so much on the Bellas? Because guess what? The Bellas are getting over on social media. There are women that defend them to the hills, and that's why, because people love them. They love to watch their little shows. They love to watch their little whatever, Total Divas and all those shows. The Kardashians and Total Divas. There you go. So I think that's the why we're not getting the edginess. I do think there's a spot for it because obviously our culture is going towards some of the edgy stuff. We're still seeing the American Horror Stories. We're still seeing some of these other like
Walking Dead.
Walking Dead, The Strain. I mean, these shows are very violent. They're edgy. They're bringing up social commentary. It's in right now. But guess what? In Vince's eyes, it's not in.
I think the difference is you're dealing with very paranormal things on those shows. Those clearly do not exist, Gary. I mean,
well, talk about
there's
Blacklist. Talk about the blood and guts on Blacklist. Talk about NCIS.
That's a crime show. It's totally different.
Okay,
and also, I mean, like,
but you can't look. It's just not gonna work anymore. Like, people are not. I tell you right now, if you have somebody bleeding all over freaking that ring with somebody getting whacked with a candlestick, you think somebody's gonna watch that? No, they're not. You can tell me all you want to. They're gonna turn it off too. It's just. I don't know where WWE wins with this. You go one way, they're going to turn it off. You go the way they're going right now, you're going to turn it off. You can't. You know what makes Walking Dead work? Because you care about all the people that you're watching.
Mm-hmm. Amen, brother.
That's why. It doesn't matter about the fact that the zombies help, but they don't have to have the zombies eating people for you to care. It's about the fact that you care about everybody that's on that show. You care about everybody that's on. You care about the main character and the chick on Blacklist. And then all the frickin' people on most of the other I mean, the whole point of Breaking Bad was the guy was doing some of the most worst illegal crap you can do, but you still cared about him while he was doing it.
Yeah. I want to bring this around to Paul because Paul, you work in the comic book world all the time, and it seems like WWE is more geared towards doing that type of stuff rather than this edgy stuff. What are we seeing? We're seeing Neville, superhero. We're seeing Stardust, Nemesis. We're seeing other shades of comics within WWE, but yet they're not grasping us like Batman grasps us. They're not getting the humor like Deadpool gives us, right?
I mean, it goes like it's all clearly like we're all getting back to what it started. It's a writing issue. They're not, as Sean said, they're not getting you involved in the characters, and that's something that comics can do very well. Is they can get you involved in the character, which is what's making you pay $3.99 every month to buy that book. But
also, let me just say one thing with what I was saying. Even with comic books, even with the most child-friendly comic books in the world, look at Superman. Even then, there were some comics that were a little more risque. And, look at Batman. Batman is really risque and really edgy, right, from the beginning up until now, and that's what made it so popular. And I feel like the writing just isn't willing to, like,
I don't know about
instead
that.
of trying to toe the line, they're like 1,000 yards back from it.
I would say this. Look, it's edgy, but it's also dark, and you also get into the whole thing with their backstories are really interesting for every single one of those characters.
Yeah,
it's not necessarily the setting. It's the what they give you to feast on in those comic books that you're really in tune with.
Yeah, it's a character-driven business. Anything entertainment-wise is wrestling, comics, television, movies. If you're not giving a crap about the person that's on the screen, it's not going to matter. Now, going back to... Go ahead.
But that's the thing, like, the characters now are so blasé. I mean, even a guy that you could do so much with, his, character basis is so easy to do things with. Bray Wyatt, they limit themselves so much.
Mm-hmm. Bray Wyatt is an interesting example. I will say you don't need a character to be edgy 24/7.
No, you don't. But
yeah, you can go back, watch the new generation of wrestling of WWF back in '92 to '96, and you'll find characters that are very PG but still got over. Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Psycho Sid. I mean, you have guys like that who very much got over on his more clean guys. Sid's a bad example, but Michaels and Bret Hart, clean cut guys. Mm-hmm. And you know, when you look at a Bray Wyatt, or you know, if you want to go back to what I was using the Undertaker back then, it's implied things. It's not always said, but it is certainly implied. And I think the writers have sort of lost the shades of gray of inferring things if they don't want to go too far. They certainly don't do that. It's either this happens or this doesn't.
Exactly.
Right.
All right.
Well, we did have a good discussion there. Folks.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we moving on from the old guys here. This whole thing with, do you think they did pull the right move in having one of the New Day members go to the table on Raw? Shouldn't that have been done on a pay-per-view or something? I mean,
not if you're trying to get the ratings up. Not if you're trying to please the kiddos in the front row and pleasing everybody. I mean, yeah, I get that, but I don't think that hurts anything to the pay-per-view. I mean, we see in Dudley's people do tables all the time. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that's there to get the ratings up, especially with what you've been posting and saying with how the ratings have been dropping. So they're trying to do some things. I mean, this whole show, I feel, was just a huge plug to get the ratings. I mean, between the opener with, you know, having Stone Cold there, I mean, yes, they were in Dallas, so it fits so perfectly with both Stone Cold and The Undertaker in Dallas. But, you know, that whole thing was a huge ratings plug, and having Xavier Woods go through the table was a big ratings boost, and all of that. But, I mean, you can also look at it on another way of, you know, we always talk about it, you know, what do results on the Raw prior to a pay-per-view have any factor on the result that will happen during the pay-per-view? And if that is the case, then part of the reason he might have gone through the table is because we're not going to get a chance to see it happen at the pay-per-view because the New Day is going to win.
I don't know if I would go that far. I would say it's a push to try to get you interested, because I can't think, outside of the New Day just being the New Day, I can't think of any, you know, memorable thing from this feud with the Dudley Boys, other than they wrestled and that's it. That's all we've really gotten.
The one thing that has been memorable, two things that have been memorable for me, I'm not sure if they started it during this feud, I believe they did, was the whole trombone thing. That's been very memorable. And then also something that, again, another thing about the writing, that they started something and then they just cut it abruptly, despite the fact that they would have worked so perfectly if they had continued it and elaborated upon it, is the whole save the tables.
Okay, the trombone is just a prop for the New Day to get attention. It's got nothing to do with the feud between the Dudleys. It's not been used at any length. The save the tables thing I'll give you, but like you said, they dropped it very quickly. Yeah. There's been nothing to this feud. So, I mean, it's them trying to get you interested in what's going to happen to that show. It's just, outside of this being the New Day, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, it's great when Big E is running down our Cowboys, Gary, when they're saying that Ryan's foot is booty. And,
booty.
Booty.
That's my favorite thing.
Well, it's not about to be booty. He's about to, you know, run all over those Eagles in another week, so it don't matter. I mean, we've already known about Romo's clavicle being booty for many years now, so that's totally whatever. But you know, this is the wrong show to be talking about Cowboys, but I think this is sort of, it's just, this was a much better promo than the one last week. I'll say that. If they're obviously going to have a sports themed promo every week, so they can have Coach talk about it on the ESPN thing, which is fine, whatever. But you know,
I mean, fine. It gives the New Day something to get some. I mean, not that they need any more heat than they already have, but it's something that they can do going into every city and doing something sports related in whatever city they're in.
Yeah, it is. So we had once again. Well, I think we did once again. We had 2 segments with the Divas.
Yes.
How do you think those went?
Well, live, I'll say this. It was very uninspiring. I'll be honest with you. For the first part of the show, everybody stood up, with intros. Everybody was excited. Bella's theme hits. Everybody stay seated. No one got up. Everyone just stared. And that's when I started looking for my phone for the score of the Monday night game. In stats, and I started looking up how much Doritos cost in India and things like that because I was so bored. So, until I heard the music hit again, I was just uninspired. And I joke, but seriously, it really kind of shows you where they're at right now. And that was just both segments were okay, but once again, even when you're champion, Charlotte, there was not much of a pop there. And I worry about that. And I feel bad for Charlotte for that reason because right now, even though they call it a revolution, it's not going as planned.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the reason, at least in my opinion, that it's not going as planned is because they're not giving them the push that they should. They're still relying on the Bellas so much, and they're still pushing the Bellas as like the main attraction, even when they're not.
Mm-hmm.
The whole concept has sort of become a little worn out. Like the team thing worked short term; it's not working long term, as we're seeing. And I think they're sort of on the right track with what they're doing with Paige and Natty, because I think that could really turn into something if they get behind it. But the rest of this is it's kind of just there. The Sasha Banks thing here it's interesting. I think they're trying to, we're slowly teasing out that these teams are going to be breaking up, and the sooner the better.
Yes.
We need to move on. Is I guess what I'm trying to get to.
Also,
go ahead. Go ahead, Brandon.
Real quick. Also, the fact that they're overemphasizing it, and they're trying to push it. They're trying to push it down your throat so much because now they're putting even more segments in. Before the whole Divas Revolution happened and everything, you may have one match. You may have one Divas match a night, if any, and that was it. So you only had that one short interval of them.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now, you see 2, sometimes even 3 segments specifically for the Divas, and people are saying this, yes, you're trying to push this whole thing, but you're not giving us what we want, so why should we care?
Well, what's funny, though, is they're giving us what we wanted, but not giving us what we wanted. I remember when we were doing this podcast a year ago, and we were talking so much about the fact that they need to give the Divas more time. They need to give them more opportunities. They can't grow this division unless you give them that time. Well, sure, they're giving us 2 matches or 2 segments, or they're giving us whatever. They're giving us double what we got in the past, but they're not giving us the quality. So the quantity is going over the quality, and I think that's the worst thing here, because now you're making people want to go back to one segment. Now you're kind of losing interest. And I want to bring up to Paul something he just mentioned a while ago. He's talking about Paige and Natalya, and that whole thing could be something. And I agree with that because they're slowly. That's the best storyline they got right now, and it's not much to that. There's really not. But I'm even hearing a possible, return, not full time, of course, but maybe Alundra Blaze joining that force and maybe helping along this Divas division because they're just not getting things over. I don't know what you think, Paul, but
and even Mickie James has apparently even said that she'd love to come back if they let her be back. So.
Yeah, but so those are some big names to come back. Paul, would you think that would help spark this division?
It's not names that they need. They need to. I have no problem with multiple segments. Multiple segments is what they need. They just need to put some quality behind it. We need to get to some story, because clearly the team thing, like I said, it's not working. It's just not working. The people out there.
That team match, the match with Charlotte and debris that happens later is just it's boring.
Yes, there's nothing in there. Yeah. And the tag match, I mean, it wasn't much better, to be honest. I mean, it was a little bit more interesting, but there was no extra heat there. So I think you get to the part where you break up the teams and you start investing in some of these singles feuds, I think you'll be set.
Now, one thing I just thought of with you guys talking about the whole Natalya and Paige matchup, or them like getting into whatever they've got. One thing that may give some more momentum to this, I know it's not popular with some people because they want to push the newer people and everything, and they don't want to dwell on the past and whatnot. But one thing that might give a little bit of momentum to this and definitely get more people excited for the division is maybe do a one-on-one with managers match between Natalya and Charlotte with Flair and Bret Hart in their corners.
Didn't we do this already in NXT?
Yeah. We did.
Okay. I haven't been watching NXT, so.
Well, that happened a long time ago.
Well, yeah.
But, you know, I mean, it hasn't been done on the main roster, so
Yeah.
it's whatever. But to me, I honestly just want Flair to go away. I do not want Charlotte to be her dad's buddy on TV. It is very off-putting, and for any, like, person... Imagine what that feels like for the younger generation that really doesn't even know much about Flair and just sees, here's this woman that's supposed to be the champion, she's hanging out with her old dad, like, the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, is that really something that speaks, like, cool to you? Like, that's somebody I really want, like, to get behind? That she just needs her dad to be around all the time? Like, just... It's cool. Dad's there. Like, let Dad... If you know, when Charlotte has a huge match and Dad wants to watch from backstage, awesome. Dad doesn't need to be around every single time Charlotte's doing something and whatever. And it gets... You know, I don't know if you guys get what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
less of that.
Mm-hmm.
Just let her be her own person. She's already taken about half of Flair's everything. Like, just leave it at that. Let her do the allusions to Daddy, and just we don't need Daddy there all the time. Moving to another thing, like, again, this stuff just bothers me. Like, Ryback is involved in a feud. Why is he wrestling the world champion on a show? Why? There is no one else in the locker room that Seth Rollins can wrestle besides someone that is in an Intercontinental title feud and doesn't need to lose or even be put in the illusion of losing. Just, to me, it's just so dumb. Like, then you have to go back and do the stupid thing with it wasn't dumb, but it's like you have to come out after Owens actually like beats Mark Henry and looks good doing it. You have to come back and do the thing with Ryback where he beats up Owens afterwards so that he looks better. Like, that kind of seems contradictory and unnecessary. Like, just if you wouldn't have put him in the match with Rollins in the first place,
Yeah,
you
if you're
had to do that.
Well, if you were gonna do anything, I would have switched. If you had to give those four a match, all four of those matches, I would have switched it up. Have because this is something I know it's cliche and it's something that's been overdone so much, but at least it's something that can give both of them a bit of a push, and it wouldn't really hurt anyone too badly. Have a champion versus champion match between Owens and Rollins, and then have Ryback face Mark Henry.
That's not too bad. So we've seen Ryback versus Mark Henry most times.
Oh, good point. Okay, then you could switch.
No,
Mark
but
Henry.
your idea is good.
You could.
Your idea is good.
Yeah, you could
My
switch.
only thing is you're again throwing away a champion versus champion match on a show for absolutely no reason. So.
Well, but when do you? I mean, that's the only.
Yeah, but those are things you can hype up if you really care to do that. I mean, what you just suggested is something that just flies in Vince's head immediately and would probably be done because he doesn't care about apparently hyping up things for Raw anymore. So that's fine. But Yeah, like this whole thing with the, you know how cool it would have been if they hyped up the Shield thing at least a week before.
Yeah, really.
So you do that in the middle of the show. You don't even give people the opportunity that are tuning in at 8 o'clock, because remember, the game doesn't start till about 8:30. So you have I have gone through this I don't know how many times. They did a great job bringing Stone Cold out from the beginning. Whatever, bring all your old people out there, you know, to pop people watching. But wouldn't it be awesome if before you even get to that, you go, the Shield is reuniting for one night, and we told you about it last week, and it's against the Wyatts. Awesome. Like, okay, and then you start the show, oh my God, Stone Cold's back, and all this stuff. And before you even get to the game, all this awesome stuff has happened. Like, oh, I might actually sit there and watch this and not turn over to ESPN.
I think, that's another thing with what we were talking about with how they don't think about what their primary audience is. They don't think about those things like they did during, you know, the Monday Night Wars or whatnot. They don't think we've got 30 minutes to keep people's eyeballs on this before the game starts. Let's do our best to keep people watching in those 30 minutes. That's what they should be focusing on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Gary, we both have to watch this game. We have to watch that game every week. I don't do the, you know, Raw stuff because of that being on, and I got to sit there and really pay attention. But, like, wouldn't you, if you're faced with one or the other? I mean, you want to be given that option, right, of wanting to stay with the wrestling show?
Oh, yeah, you do. I mean, I'll be honest with you. That's what I want most of the time, because, I mean, okay, I should really want to pay attention to the wrestling show, because the wrestling show should have stuff all through it that I'm not used to, or stuff that's not every time I see the show. It's always different. It's always got a variety. And I should want to, and during commercial breaks, I should want to flip over to the football game and go, oh, okay, 17-7, okay, whatever. I can kind of get the gist of what's going on, and then move back on to wrestling. It's almost like now I'm more invested in what's going on in the game, because I see legitimately the same matches week to week. I see the same things being said. I don't see any change, really, very little change, if any. And it's almost like the things that are happening in the Monday Night Football game are just more important. They actually have more variety there at times. And I know it sounds like I'm just hating. I'm being very honest. In fact, you know, I was very curious about that Monday Night Football game, sitting there live in this audience, and I was watching and I was enjoying myself. I was having a great time. You know, everybody at home may not even like this Raw, but I had fun because it was live. You get a chance to feel the crowd. It's a lot of fun. But at the same time, I still wanted to know about that game, because they weren't investing me so much into what I was seeing that I didn't look down at my phone at the score, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
it's scary to think about when you're live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you also have, like, so many damn commercial breaks or stuff to do.
Well, I'll be honest with you guys. You know, you say that, but some of the video packages that they had during commercial breaks were very good. And they actually got you watching. And I'll be honest with you, I mean, I didn't even look at the score during those points of the show, because those video packages were really good.
Was it still a huge promotion for the network?
They had network stuff. They had movie trailers. They had different things. Some of the stuff I have not seen yet. Even just kind of getting into certain, I forget all the packages, but they had some good packages. I'll just say that. So my point being is, I mean, my goodness, during the Divas match, let's just say that. I mean, I didn't mind about looking at my phone and seeing who had what stat and all that, because same stuff I've seen before. Seth Rollins is talking, whatever. I've heard this 100 times.
Well, so how did you guys feel about Paul? Like, do you think this did a good job of selling you on the pay-per-view, or no?
I don't think a lot of things on this show did a lot to sell me on the pay-per-view, to be honest. I didn't have a problem with Ryback facing Seth Rollins, but I think it could have ended better. Like, this would have been a fine double DQ or something like that. I mean, and to go back to the Monday Night Football talk too, I mean, it's when you're up against a game, there's a lot on the line in that game too, because it's Eagles and Giants, and the division is sort of still up in the air right now. And, you know, you got to compete against that, and that's That's a
And
tough
that game was
find.
terrible. Okay,
It was a terrible
That
game.
was horrible.
Like,
Like, just
There's a lot on the line there. I mean, they're still trying to battle who's first in that god awful division.
I know, but what I'm saying is like that game was bad, and like you still can't win for the audience for Raw. It's just like, you know, even when ESPN's on a bad night, wishing there were. I'm sure Gruden and Tarico are wishing they were anywhere but there for most of that game. It makes me sad. You know, that's just
Yeah, I
one
mean,
of those
you
times
basically
where-
could have switched. You basically could have switched to back over to Raw by like halftime.
Yeah, well, or most of the game, really. It's just, even that, it's, you've also competing with they can't beat hip hop in Atlanta and all that.
That's ridiculous. I said this on the group last week when I saw that that they've been losing the Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. I'm just like, how far has WWE fallen that they're losing to that?
Well, to be fair, they used to lose to SpongeBob during the Ruthless Aggression era, so, you know.
Yeah, SpongeBob's a pretty darn good show, though. Come on.
Oh, Gary.
I don't know about you guys, but I mean, meow. Anyway, you would be surprised at some of the things that do beat Raw, but I mean, at the same point, I mean, I think we were giving them a hard time. We're seeing all these things, and it's not because we're not enjoying the product to an extent. We still enjoy it to an extent. It's just we expect a lot more. We've seen a lot better, and I think we know they can do better. It's just, will they give us better?
Yeah.
That is the question every Monday, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So, I think we got to score.
And the answer more often than not is no.
True.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Let's go ahead and give a rating for this show. Did you feel like that Shield reunion was wasted?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They could have done so much more with that, and they didn't.
Agreed. All right. So, moving from there, we got to give this a rating. What would you say that is for Raw?
Oh, boy. There's some neat stuff on this show. Kevin Owens doing the pop-up powerbomb on Mark Henry was endlessly impressive. The 6-man, even though it was going to be your pre-show, was still pretty gosh darn good too. The New Day were fun. The seeing some of the old guys come back again, even though we talk about how it sort of played out, it's still neat to see sometimes, like Stone Cold. I'm thinking 5.
All right. I'll let Brandon go before me because I have some other things to say.
I mean, as Paul said, it was nice. It was fun. The opening to it was fun. The concept of the Shield coming back would have been fun, but as we just said, it falls flat on its face. I'll give it a 6 just because of the opening segment, and I mean there were a few decent spots, but nothing to really catch your eye, nothing to really wow you. And I mean, leading up to what, in my opinion, is one of the best big three, probably the best non-big three pay-per-view of the year. You could have done so much more with this, and they just didn't.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Looking at this, and since I was there, and of course I want Sean to give his opinion too, but I'll just say this. It's a different atmosphere. You get excited. You kind of see things from a different aspect. It's not TV. Let's take things for the Bray Wyatt and everybody taking out their phones and the lights and the ambience. It makes it so much more powerful. I remember when me and Paul went to Raw. I mean, it's special. It's fun. It's enjoyable, and you get a chance to be a part of that. So I think when I look at this, and I look at the things that happened. It was a blast. That Stone Cold Steve Austin entrance, that was like being at a heavy metal concert. Just the vibrance of the crowd, and everybody loved HBK. So I'm going to go a little higher for me. I still think the show could have been better. I think I'm going to have to give it a 6. I know it sounds like I'm not giving it a whole lot, but I think if I really watch this on TV, this may get in the 4 or 5 range for me.
I'm going to give it a 6. It's better than the last couple weeks. So, I'll go with that.
Okay.
Okay, Brandon, really quick before we move on, let's quickly get your picks here for Hell in a Cell.
Okay.
Oops. I don't know why this thing is screwing with me here. So, pre-show, Neville, Cesaro, Ziggler against Rusev, Sheamus, and King Barrett.
Just because I think the heel group won on Raw, correct? If I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Barrett won.
Then I think the Neville, Cesaro, and whoever else, and Ziggler will win that matchup. I don't understand why they're doing it back to back though. That's a really lame pre-show.
Fair enough.
U.S. title. Who's going to be the one that challenges Cena, and who wins?
Just because he's available now, and since they'll still want him to do something, I think Dean Ambrose might come out, and I think Cena will win, unfortunately.
Alright, IC title.
IC title, Kevin Owens retains.
Okay, tag titles.
Tag titles, I think the Dudley Boys will finally get the win and take them.
Charlotte and Nikki.
Charlotte retains.
The first, what's probably, I'm sure it will be the first Hell in a Cell match, Wyatt versus Reigns.
Reigns wins, definitely hoping for some good high spots considering the way those two are.
Okay, world title match.
World title match. I want to say Kane's going to win it, but I think they're going to have Rollins win it, thus allowing Demon Kane to go all out and to attack the Authority and wreak havoc.
Alright, Brock and Taker.
I think Taker will win it.
Alright. Well,
cool.
Thank you, Brandon, for joining us at Raw. We had some spirited conversations there.
Yeah. And, yeah.
See you on Sunday then.
Yeah, I'll talk to you on Sunday for the Giants-Cowboys game, and then I might be on for Hell in a Cell as well. So, I'll talk to you guys later.
Cool.
See ya.
See you, Brandon. All right, everybody, that was Brandon Bisco being so glad to have him back on the show. We are going to move on, though. We have to give our predictions on what we think is going to happen in Hell in a Cell. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I was going to get to that. Sorry. I just wanted to kind of remind everybody that we are still going to do ours, and we are going to have a special guest on that as well, just that one segment. So, but before we get to that, we wanted to let everybody know what we thought, just what Sean was saying there, about the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast with Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman's guy. That's right, Brock Lesnar, making his first appearance on the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast. And, I got a chance to check this out. Paul, did you get a chance to watch this whole thing?
I did. I watched it after I got home from bowling.
Oh, awesome. So, and I know, Sean, I mean, you may have seen some highlights. I'm not sure if you got a chance to watch it as well. Did you get a chance to see any of it?
No, not really.
Okay. And that's cool. And this is really simple. This isn't going to take a whole lot of time because, I mean, let's be honest. There were a lot of conversation about a lot of the same things in this. So I'm not too concerned about it. But, I mean, Paul, just offhand, what were your thoughts on this?
I mean, I thought it was a fairly interesting look. Brock is a very plain person, to say the least. He's kind of a dick, which, I mean, we already knew that, but if it comes across on this podcast, he's an entertaining guy to listen to, though. Like, he's been through a lot. He's been through a lot of different organizations that have a lot of mainstream attention, and I think that came across very well. Like, they talk about his NFL tryout, and they talk about his time with MMA and the UFC. And, talk about WWE before and WWE now. And it's all really, really interesting to hear from his point of view, because he's not one of these diehard guys for the business. He's very much here to make some money and sees himself more, I think, as a businessman than he does as a wrestler or anything like that. So all that sort of coupled together with Austin, I think, just made for a really entertaining time. Yeah. Although I could have done without them talking about hunting, to be fair. But
yeah, me too. And, about the car vehicles and all that. I mean, I think it's great for people that care about that stuff, though, to be honest with you. Guys who are into that. And, of course, you've got, I'm sure, a big audience for that. But, I mean, I think when I said it was a lot about the same stuff, it was very much about, the beginning for Brock, some of the things he thought during the thought process. And Sean, I think you'll find this really interesting when you get a chance to watch it. Sean is so busy. And let me preface that. There's a reason Sean didn't get a chance to check this out. Sean is a producer on 2 other podcasts. Not only that, he reviews video games. I mean, my God, people even send him soda in the mail to review. So, I mean, this guy...
Yes, Paul, I got 4 cans of the new game fuel that they made for Call of Duty in a FedEx box today.
Was it good?
Yeah, I just finished drinking the Berry Lime one. It's actually pretty good, but I was sitting there like, what am I supposed to do with this? Do I tell them that my palate was cleansed with Berry Lime Mountain Dew? I mean... I know Tony Osura would be jealous right now, but I'm just saying.
So, Tony, you can call in and yell at Sean. Tell him how jealous you are. But anyway, long story short, yes, Sean has been very busy, and I appreciate everything he does for our shows. And that's why. I mean, he's just got a lot going on. So, I mean, Sean will watch it eventually. But, Sean, this is one thing I think you'll find interesting, is that Brock Lesnar did talk a little bit about the UFC. And some of his experiences there, and his true feelings about his first loss, some of his victories, his relationship between himself and Dana White, different things like that. And I think that was very interesting, and you kind of got that look. And I thought it was great that WB sat there and let them spend so much time on the UFC. Because, I mean, honestly, they could have said, no talk about UFC. We don't want to hear about it. Don't even bring it up. They didn't do that. They let Stone Cold ask the questions, and it was really very natural. So you get a little bit of an introspective from what Brock Lesnar is and who he's about. And, it's still to the point. I mean, it's Brock Lesnar, so there's only so much you can get out of him. But at the same point, it was very interesting, and I enjoyed that conversation. I enjoyed some of the other things. The one thing that they kind of answered in a way that kind of was a letdown was, about Stone Cold, basically leaving the company because he was supposed to, lose to Brock Lesnar, and he left the company over it. Mm-hmm. And Brock just said, no, he didn't take any offense to it. It's whatever to him. He really didn't care. I found that very interesting. I thought Brock was going to say, oh, you were just scared of me or something, but he did not. So, but there's a lot of great conversation in this. And I think...
I wonder, too, if maybe they were told to not even think about saying anything that might make people think that they might be having a match after what Paul Heyman did on the previous one.
Yeah.
And Vince being really pissed off. So I wonder if that might have played a factor at all.
Maybe.
I think Vince wanted to make sure that was not... But, there's also that whole, and I guess we're going to talk about this during the Hell in a Cell, preview, but there's a lot of people that think that there's got to be something bigger for Brock to do if you're already taking Undertaker away this soon. I mean, I just can't imagine, after Undertaker, who's the big guy that you have left if Rock and Triple H are supposed to be going against each other.
But is it about Brock going against somebody, or is it someone going against Brock? I think that's the bigger storyline. You know what I mean? I think it's someone that's not as a big of a name. And can this guy battle Brock? You know, because we've seen John Cena go against him, we've seen Undertaker go against him, and guys like that. Even you want to call it Roman Reigns, but who is that guy going to be that's going to challenge Brock and actually give him a run for his money? I think it's more about Brock giving the rub now. It's not all about Brock getting the rub. So.
I think that's a very interesting idea. I don't know really if what they're going to do with him at WrestleMania, especially if, like, Rock and, as you were saying, Rock and Triple H is the plan. Because I think Brock and Rock would be a really great way to go. I mean, that's really the next, giant step forward is the, giant crossover star and all the history and beating whatever else you want to throw on top of that. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Mm-hmm. And you could put some other options out there. You could look at some different things. I mean, you could even, and I know it may sound crazy, but maybe not bring back a legend from WWE. Maybe bring somebody from another organization that people want to see. I mean, we often just think about WWE and centralized, but with such a worldwide audience, with people from different countries, with people, with all the eyes on WWE.
I wonder if they would consider Kurt Angle.
Oh, yeah. Well, Kurt Angle, but I'm even going past that. I'm thinking guys that are, big overseas that could possibly come. But you probably got it right. Kurt Angle probably would be that name that would get people watching.
Well, I'm just saying that's somebody also from his past and he'd be available. And if you don't bring him in before then, I mean, to have that one last WrestleMania match with Brock, I mean, wouldn't that be awesome? I mean, just,
that's a good thought. I mean, for me, another name that would be bigger than gold would be Chuck Palumbo, right?
This is the kind of things we expect from Gary on this one.
Half the audience is like, who's Chuck Palumbo? Oh.
And the other half is like, oh my god, I'm turning this off.
I'm considering getting a shirt for WrestleMania 32 that says the champ is here, and it's got a picture of David Arquette. So I'm considering it. So we'll see.
I hope you're not talking about the podcast in that shirt.
No. No. I'll ask Harry for permission to use his podcast on it. So. The Raw Reaction. So those guys are awesome, though. I probably wouldn't do that to them. But anyway, it's going to be very interesting. I think you got something going there, Sean, and that's the biggest question leading up to WrestleMania 32 is who is that guy for Brock Lesnar to face? That's just up in the air, So, pretty much, I mean, like I said, we really kind of covered. I mean, Paul, am I leaving anything out about the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast? Anything that I left out?
Other than the fact that Brock grew up watching Little House on the Prairie.
It's gold.
That was gold.
That was, oh my God, me too.
Where he lives, I guess. He lived.
I don't have any excuse for it. I don't have. I had tons of channels, and I still watch Little House on the Prairie. So,
yeah, I remember catching reruns on the WB when I was a kid, when that was still a channel.
I think I watched it on that KDFI Fox or whatever, the thing that turned into My Network TV.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's gold. I used to love that kind of. I'm old at heart. I used to watch Dick Van Dyke, all those old stuff. So, but anyway, well, you know what? Enough of this. The Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast was a blast to watch with Brock Lesnar. But you know what? If you did not watch it yet, you need to go check it out for yourself. We kind of give you a tidbit of what's going on, but you got to hear it from Brock's mouth. Don't just listen to us. Go check it out on the network if you got the network, and you'll have a blast. And not only that, if you don't have the network, Stone Cold Steve Austin always replays these on his podcast. So if you don't have the network, you'll have it on his show. So, but anyway, guys, well, I think it's time for us to move on and give our predictions for Hell in a Cell as we preview it next. And of course, we'll hopefully have our guest coming up soon, right after we play this music.
Is all you need, so cultivate and plant the seed. Hold your breath and count to 10. Just count to 10.
Gotta love it, I guess, you know. It's not a bad song. I mean, it's okay.
I love Shine Down, just this song isn't, that
Not your
great or
favorite.
whatever.
Yeah.
Just,
I get
mean,
you.
I never thought I'd hear a rock group say they were making it rain, but
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, that's true. Well, you know what? We have a special guest we want to introduce onto the show, Mr. Glenn Smith. Welcome to the show.
I got 2 words for you. Smith it!
Oh, yeah, I like it. You got to wear that shirt. You got to get that shirt together, Glenn. So
That would be awesome. I can only see the amount of money that'll flow in. Most of that will be mine, but still, money is money.
Definitely. There you go. Well, so glad to have you on. We are going to cover Hell in a Cell. So let's go ahead and get this thing started, guys. We have quite a few things on the card to talk about, but one of them is this kickoff match. And, it kind of looks like the right match to be on the card for the kickoff show. We got Dolph Ziggler versus Ruru, of course, everybody. And, of course, Sheamus and our favorite little boy, King Barrett. You know, those guys are, okay. But anyway, let's talk about this match. Who do you think is going to be the victor here?
I will say, I think the minute Lana and Rusev announced their engagement, WWE writing went, "Game over, man! Game over!" But, this is basically kind of a obvious case of faces going over heels for the pre-show. I mean, to be honest, I can't think of many pre-shows where the heels actually won.
I have the faces going over here too. The only reason I could see letting the heels go over is if you have something planned to keep Sheamus sort of on the radar and interesting, but they haven't seemed to be making that a priority. So faces to win.
All right, and just mention, I didn't mention Neville and Cesaro as a part of this. I just got excited about saying Ruru. But
You gotta worry about that, though. WWE might start trying to make Cesaro the new Captain New Japan. He has to lose every time.
No, don't let that happen. But Sean, who do you got here, faces or heels?
I'm gonna go with the faces. The only thing that worries me a little bit is you do have Sheamus on that side, and at some point they got to start ramping up his wins so that he. I don't know. They've had him lose so many times. It's usually the other way around. He starts winning and then he loses when he's gonna cash in. So I don't know. I'll just stay with the faces, but for some reason I just don't feel too confident in that.
Fair enough, and I'm right there with you, Sean. I'm not sold that I can be confident in the, Ziggler, Cesaro, and Neville. These guys are great, but Rusev is doing his thing, and Sheamus, of course, with the Money in the Bank, King Barrett was able to get over. But this is why I lean towards Team Ziggler, which I'll call it. I just think that Rusev, Ruru, is still in the doggy house. And I don't think that, even having 2 other guys beside him is going to get over that. So I'll go with the faces and Team Ziggler.
If I may ask, does anybody think Sheamus may possibly cash in at Hell in the Cell? Just kind of throw everybody off, have this be the night that Sheamus cashes in?
Ooh, Paul, what do you think?
I think it's an interesting idea and certainly more believable than him cashing it in last month. I still don't know if it's the right time. I'd rather him be interesting and have something going for him than what he's got right now.
Yeah, him beating either Seth Rollins, him beating Kane or something wouldn't, really be anything great if they did that just so that Sheamus could cash in. But, whatever.
I was just...
I'm totally just, whenever that time comes for Sheamus, I'm just going to be like, alright, whatever. I'm sorry, I know Paul's this huge Sheamus person, but I'm just so in the, I don't care about you.
Well, he's not very interesting right now, but give him time.
Yeah, very true.
If I was a betting man, I would kind of guess Royal Rumble time is when they might have Sheamus cash in.
Hey, he's got till June. It's not like there's a giant rush.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
That's true.
Right, but don't forget that they're also kind of trying to They're trying to at least make it so that he doesn't overlap the same cash-in dates as Rollins. I mean,
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, if he goes after WrestleMania, who cares? I mean, you've already had it happen at WrestleMania. Once you've already had that,
Yeah.
does it really matter when he cashes in? It just
Not
as
really.
long as it's before June.
Yeah,
yeah.
you gotta beat the date. Other than that,
Yeah,
True.
I want to see that happen one day. Like, they have to do a storyline where he just has it so long that it goes over June and they have to do some kind of, extension or something, or just do, the NFL draft thing. Oh, you missed your pick? Well, screw you.
Yeah, I would love to see an 11th hour cash-in, day of Money in the Bank, cashing in.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. It's well, it has to be until the after Money in the Bank, right? Midnight that night. So
Yep.
it's at 9:45.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we got a lot more picks to do, and we could sit here and talk about that, but we have quite a bit to get through. Let's move on, though. We got to talk about the U.S. title. Now, who is going to face Cena at Hell in a Cell? And plus, I need to know who your winner is going to be, Glenn.
I will say the person has to at least have some sort of affiliation with NXT, be it a former NXT competitor or somebody that was on the NXT competition show that absolutely sucked the living life out of WWE. I want to kind of keep it vague just so that I can keep all my options open. Daniel Bryan, Tyler Breeze.
You just want to get it right. So just tell me, who's going to win, lose? Is Cena going to continue?
Cena loses.
Okay. Paul?
I don't know who the mystery person is either, but I think it makes sense for him to win it here, and you can have Cena chase until he's ready to leave. So you can keep putting that guy over, whoever you think is the lucky recipient of that idea.
Sean?
I'm gonna say Tyler Breeze, just because I can't imagine them running through another NXT guy already. I mean, they could do Joe or something like that, and it kind of wouldn't matter. But I can't imagine they're gonna bring anybody that's a main. I don't think you're seeing a Balor or anybody else. I mean, and it would.
It'd be cool though.
I just hope it's not something like Baron Corbin or whatever that
Oh,
nobody's
dear.
gonna give a total crap about. Just, you know.
He was cool at first, but somehow he just seemed to get shoved down the throats.
Well, as soon as he started not being Goldberg, then nobody cared.
Yeah, that's very true. You know what? I look at this and I think to myself, who could it be? I'm not going to go younger. I'll go older. Greg Valentine beats Cena. For
10 out of 10.
Yeah. If we were going to pick random old guys, I'd say very first ever United States champion Harley Race.
Oh, there you go. Good job.
I mean, yeah. So are they gonna let the divas come beat him up afterwards or something?
Wouldn't it be something?
Oh, you think we shouldn't be wrestling? Okay, I'll just beat you down then.
Yeah,
I think we would then have to listen during that whole beating. Nikki Bella off the side saying, "Come on, John! Come on, John!"
Oh, that'd be Brie.
Brie
would be saying, "Come on, Nikki," to Nikki's "Come on, John."
You know.
Well, you know what? To be honest, Brie wouldn't actually be too terribly wrong about that, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, there you go. So, okay, I'm just going to... I'll be serious for a second. I think the thought process is probably not going to happen, but I'm just going to hope and a wish on a prayer, and hopefully, Jiminy Cricket will help me get over. And Daniel Bryan beats Cena. I'm just going to hope that happens. Let's move on, though. We got the Dudley Boys, of course, facing off against the New Day. They'll be doing a big tag team match here. So who's going to win the belts? Is it going to be retained by the New Day, or does Dudley's get him?
Normally I'm all about that booty, but I'm going to have to be all about that table.
All right. Paul?
I thought the Dudley Boys were going to win it last month. I still think they're going to win it here, so Dudley's to win.
Sean?
I think the Dudleys are going to win it too, but nice to know what side of the the figure you fall on there, Glenn.
Yeah, I really.
I think you guys could come up with a new rating system: booty or patootie.
That would go along with the same reference of Sarah Jesse Raphael that was made by Paige, of all people. That was so stupid.
That was dumb.
Does Paige even know who Sarah Jesse Raphael is?
She wasn't even alive when. Yeah. Anyway.
She might have caught reruns.
True. I just think she was watching the Goldbergs or something to see her. So, no, looking at this, booty everywhere does not succeed. It will be the dud for me.
I'm glad that they actually made that reference.
Yeah, see? WWE Intercontinental title. Guess what? Kevin Owens is walking in with it. Is he going to walk out with it against Ryback?
Yes.
I do think Kevin Owens retains here. You got to keep the feud going. I think it's actually working pretty well for both guys, too.
Yep. Once Ryback wins, the feud ends. So you have to keep the thing going.
Sweep it. The Canadian wins and Kevin Owens.
I just feel bad right now.
Yeah, poor guys.
I wonder if possibly after the Owens Ryback feud ends, if depending on how well Sami Zayn's doing, bring him up to the main roster and have him go after Owens.
Yeah, you know what? That should have been my pick. I don't know how healthy he is though.
No, he's not there yet, but I mean he's I'd say a month or two away from it.
Okay.
I'm either expecting if he's not, I don't think he'd be ready, but it's either you have him be a surprise guy on a Survivor Series team, or you make him wait till the Royal Rumble and say Kevin Owens is the only guy in the ring and the next guy is Sami Zayn.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Or Finn. From the taping results that just happened for NXT, I'm thinking we may actually get to see Balor be the Royal Rumble guy.
Yeah, could be.
Oh yeah, they do have to win that. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Tommy did win last year. So that's for the WrestleMania Battle Royal thing.
Yeah.
They used to have. I think it was only they only did it at one time for Bo Dallas.
Yeah.
The other ones, they just kind of just happened.
That's true. All right, guys, let's move on to the Divas title, where Charlotte has it, but will she leave with it because Nikki wants it bad?
I will. Dude, why did you have to say something that just sounds like it just came out of a porno?
Nah, well, that's because we're talking about Nikki.
Makes
So are you saying
sense.
she looks like she comes out of a porno, Gary?
Yes, I am.
Hello,
I'm saying that.
certain female augmentation was done.
Not every porn star has fake boobs.
I'm
saying.
I'd say upwards of 90%.
Okay. Well, who's your pick? Who's your pick, Glenn?
I'm going to have to say I thank God that I'm working that evening and I don't have to see that god awful match. Charlotte.
Charlotte retains here too. I still don't think the Bellas are the answer to making this thing succeed, but WWE certainly thinks they are.
No, it's not WWE that thinks that. It's Kevin Dunn that thinks that.
Somebody back there who matters thinks they do. So,
the match could actually be decent. So I'll still say Charlotte retains, but I have some hope for the match, maybe.
Yeah, we can see. I'm going with Charlotte as well. I think she retains. Our first Hell in a Cell match, guys, is between Bray Wyatt and Roman Reigns. Who will be the victor here?
I'm thinking I think maybe Bray Wyatt, just to kind of show how dominant he is and try and build him up more as the force to be reckoned with in WWE now.
Oh, Glenn, you're a dreamer, and I can respect that.
I was gonna steal your line there.
Roman Reigns goes over here. I'm pretty sure he's the next guy in line to face Seth.
Yep. Maybe you do a team thing with Survivor Series because that's Survivor Series. But after that, I think it's pretty much set that you must bring in Roman Reigns at some point to face Seth Rollins. So,
Or even add Dean Ambrose to the mix. Make them all go after Rollins.
I still hope that's like a WrestleMania thing.
Me too.
Same.
I'm going to go ahead and go with... man. You know what? I don't care. I'm going with Bray Wyatt, too. I'll be a dreamer with Glenn. I don't know if I want to... Anyone but Reigns. Let's go ahead and talk about...
Anybody but you, Roman.
Yeah, anybody but you. Let's start with the World Heavyweight Championship belt, though, guys. And Seth Rollins is going to be facing off against the Demon Kane. That's right. And if Kane loses, don't forget, he loses his job. So Corporate Kane will be out of that situation very fast if Kane loses. What do you guys think?
Remember the 14th commandment. Never, ever, ever count out the architect Seth Rollins.
Okay.
I think Seth Rollins retains here too. I don't care if Kane wins by DQ or whatever. I just want this to be over. It's a fun flavor of the month feud. It's not something that'll last long term very well, though.
And I think they're also I think they actually need Kane to lose so that they can bring back the Demon Kane and just have it be that instead of these multiple personalities, as you could say.
Mm-hmm.
Corporate Kane and Demon Kane. Yes, it's funny, but I don't think it could work in the long run.
Anybody but you, Kane. Anybody but you. Not happening, sir.
Not happening, bro.
Nope, not happening.
All right.
Rollins should win.
Perfect. All right. Well, we're going to move on to the Hell in a Cell match, the second one we got on this docket, and that is between The Undertaker and Brock Lesnar. Now, this is, I think, the most interesting one, and I think we're all very curious to see what's going to happen in this match, but I want to know your prediction, Glenn.
I want Undertaker to win so badly, but I'm going to hate myself for saying this, but I think Lesnar actually wins.
I picked Taker in the 4-1-1 thing. I've kind of been bouncing back and forth. I'm going to stick with Taker. I still wouldn't be surprised to see Brock win this either. I think you have to do something though to get Taker moving forward towards Mania. I think a victory here does more for him than it would for Lesnar.
I just want to hear Paul Heyman say after the match, "Ladies and gentlemen, you're the winner, Brock Lesnar."
That actually wasn't too bad, honestly.
Yeah.
So full of piss and vinegar. I just love that.
I have nowhere to go with that. But,
that's what it sounds like. The man has like piss and vinegar in his mouth when he says that.
Wow.
So vile.
He must be hanging out with R. Kelly a lot. Go ahead, Sean.
God. Woo. Please, I need to think of something else before we go down in the gut. Oh, God, Gary, come on, man.
Come on, Sean, I need your prediction.
Now you've, I was going to take Glenn's first deal and then make the song out of it, but then he went somewhere else with it, so that screwed me over.
I typically do that to a lot of people.
That's why his middle name is the Screwjob, right, Glenn?
Yeah. I think I may actually legally change my middle name to that.
There you go.
Screwjob Smith.
There you go. I like that. It's catchy. I'm going to go.
Works on resumes.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, let's go ahead and I'll go with Brock Lesnar. I see it. I feel like it's got to happen. We'll have to see, what the future is, but right now that's what's going to happen in my docket. But that is
final answer, Gary.
That's my final answer. All right, guys. Well, we have to move on. We got a lot of stuff to do tonight, but I want to say, thank you, Glenn, for joining us for Hell in a Cell. This has been a fun preview with you, man.
Yes, it has. I always enjoyed these preview episodes. They seem to be so funny.
Yeah, it's enjoyable. We love them too. So, well, thanks, Glenn, man, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Catch you on the flippity flop. Bye-bye.
Later.
Later.
All right, guys, we are moving on now. How much fun was that? But we have to talk some NXT. A lot of things went down, so we'll be right back with that.
WWE Developmental NXT.
Oh, alright. As my computer's doing its usual, like, let me just go a little bit slow. So we start off with Asuka and Billie Kay. As now we have like a thing where Asuka, when she comes out with the mask, they just have a thing that has her mask. And then when she takes off the mask, they start the music and everything, which is kind of cool. Then Billie Kay actually gets her own music and video and everything, so they make her look like not a jobber for once. I guess she beats out Point and Peyton Royce for the longest legs in NXT. I don't know how that works, but that was part of her promo. So, there was apparently "You Killed Dana" chants that happened. I really couldn't tell what they were. I started hearing them when they got Asuka's gonna kill you. I didn't hear the "You Killed Dana" chants, but apparently they were there. I thought this was pretty good for what it was. It was short to the point. That German suplex was freaking nasty, and yeah.
I really dug this all the way through, honestly. It's a good piece of business here for 4 minutes. I think Asuka, one, I really enjoy her theme music. It's really, really cool. Two, I think she got to look good, but I think more importantly, Billie Kay got to look good. She got the insert promo. I think she got about half the time in this to do some work on Asuka too. So just good stuff all the way around here, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And Billie Kay, getting to, showcase herself and, get herself over a little bit here is perfect because, we all know that, the momentum is not with her right now. It's, Asuka is the one that's getting most of the, reactions, most of the curiosity. So I think this is great. They both look good in this. It's to me, the perfect formula for them.
Alright, well, moving on, we do have Breeze telling Samoa Joe that he can't come in NXT and just win a battle royal all of a sudden and become number one contender, at least not while he's around, so he better go find Mr. Breeze. Well, we shall see how long it takes Joe to do that. We have Colin Cassidy and Enzo against the Mechanics. Enzo and Cass do their thing. Especially with what was it he rhymed beatings with something? Can't remember what it was.
Trick or treating.
Yeah, treating with beating. So, yep. As long as you don't, do any beat the kids while you're giving them candy.
Clearly, you just can't go to their house on Halloween. Is what they're trying to tell you. You just can't do it.
They turn the lights off over there.
Yeah, so it was short. The Enzo and Cass won. Mechanics are just so good. Just have to say that.
I completely agree. Old school, isolating body parts, quick tags, like they are the epitome of an old school tag team, and it's wonderful. Colin and Enzo still managed to get the big win here, and then we get a post-match beatdown. But this whole segment I thought was good too. Just fun little segments, point to point throughout this entire show.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I talked about perfect formula for that, the Divas match. I'd stand with this one. I think that, both got over well.
Well, even Marie told us that she's in Paris. And that, she hopes that they don't forget about her. Well, if you're telling people that means they probably will.
Who are you talking about again? Or I didn't hear who? Anyway, go ahead.
That thing with the red hair.
Oh yes, the useless. Yeah, it goes. Yeah, let's move on.
Paris can keep her for all I care.
Please.
Well, someone that I'm sure, somebody that wishes Nashville would have kept.
Been ruining this whole part of the show since we started.
Oh, sorry about your damn luck, Paul, because James Storm has come into NXT, and he gets "You Belong Here" chants from the crowd, which I'm sure Paul was like ruining to the whole thing. That hip toss that he does looks terrible, but everything else was pretty decent. I like the replay they showed was probably the best part of the match, the ending. He has a new finisher called the 8-second ride, which is cool.
No,
I figured they wouldn't let him use the last call, so whatever. And then he tells Danny Burch to be sorry about his damn luck too. So, how do you think the debut went for Mr. James Storm? I mean, he got a pretty big reaction there from the fans, and I liked the shot of that guy that was just totally dumbfounded at the fact that James Storm was there.
Yeah. Like it felt weird because he's been TNA since it started, and now to see him here, it's sort of like Sting walking down the ramp on Raw. Just it doesn't fit, you know. The "You Belong." I mean, it's nice for the NXT to lie to James Storm, but you don't have to lie to him, guys. He really doesn't belong here. I personally thought the 8-second ride looked terrible. But whatever. He's here. I'm just gonna have to learn to deal with it, I guess.
Yeah, and it brings up a song, Paul, you alluded to it. One of these things doesn't belong, kind of thing. It's
not like the other.
Yeah, something like that, however it goes. But it's very much odd. But you know what? So, personally, I don't have anything against James Storm. I'm not on the bandwagon of, like Paul is, not liking him, I guess. He's okay. Doesn't bother me. But I prefer to see him with Bobby Roode. Now that's a tag team that I think would be great in NXT.
Yeah, that would be cool.
If he finds a partner and manages to work with them well, I'll be okay with that. Like, I think he's a fine tag team wrestler. It's just singles-wise, he brings nothing to the table for me. Just absolutely nothing.
I still like the idea some people have had of making him the manager of the mechanics.
That's a fine idea too. Just don't let him wrestle by himself. Just spare me that.
That's true. But think about this, guys. They bring Brad Maddox, get him away from Adam Rose. Brad Maddox comes and joins him, and they could be called Beer Stunning.
Well, you can't break up beef mode, Gary. You can't do that.
Beef mode doesn't even exist.
It does in my head, Sean, and that's all that matters.
Well, we know he sips moonshine and swigs beer, so that guy has already got a little bit too much going on. But anyway, we move on to... I would say that they've done little vignettes here for Rhino and Baron Corbin because they're the main event, but they're pretty much cut and paste from previous ones. You can obviously tell the one for Baron Corbin is the one that they used when they were having him face Joe, and they just took out the stuff about him being the guy that doesn't like indie wrestlers. It was like so obvious where they made the cut. I was like, oh, okay. This doesn't... I mean, it's still cool. It makes you care about them a little, but I still didn't really care. I actually fell asleep during the main event, honestly. But anyway, something I did not fall asleep in, and I love the fact they're doing this again. Like, man, NXT just nails these things so good. We're getting to know Apollo Crews, and we're going to find out more about him next week, too. We find out all about him living in Uganda and all that stuff with his dad for a while, and that he moved with his mom, and I mean, just all that stuff that he tells you, it's interesting. It automatically makes you care about him, and I think that's so good that they do that with these guys. I mean, so... props to NXT for that.
Yeah, totally. They're very interesting, especially if you haven't seen any of Apollo Crews' work. Before this, they show you some shots of him in Evolve and stuff like that. But I mean, the thing that they do so well with these is they let you build a genuine connection with the person. Like Apollo breaks down during the video crying because his mom bought him one of those styrofoam belts that I have like 4 of still around my house from way back in the WWF days. And that meant a lot to him because his mom wasn't, doing very well financially and all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, stuff like that, just stuff that makes you really connect with a person is really what they do well in these videos.
Yeah, very intelligent move by NXT. They did it with Finn Balor. You learn so much. You're learning a lot about Apollo Crews. I mean, this is just great.
Yep, completely agree. And we move on to Alexa Bliss coming out to take on Peyton Royce as she does. Did you like the whole they chanted Peyton Royce into the New Day chant? That was cool.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
We get, the glitz flip and the sparkle splash. We do have some Peyton Royce hitting some kicks and, the big heel kick that she does because she has long legs. I thought she looked good here along with Alexa Bliss. Bliss wins, as you would expect. And then she cuts a promo on Bayley, pretty much doing what she did when she first introduced herself to Bayley there. So, what'd you guys think?
Yeah, Alexa is another one of these girls who is just nailing her character, and we're waiting for the wrestling to sort of come along. But I guess, like, Blake and Murphy, they are the best hype men ever for Alexa. Like, they come out with her, they make, the show is obviously all about Alexa, and they make sure that is a thing. And that's just something really cool to see. You don't always get that.
It's so bad of me. As for you said Alexa Bliss, and then of course nailing the character. Why was I having thoughts on that? Anyway, let's move on to the fact that I don't know if you might have got that gist. I guess, but anyway, good stuff. Moves on the progression of the storyline, and it works. I'm okay with it.
All right, well. I've been dreading getting to this, but that main event, Baron Corbin and Rhino. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty meh all the way through. I mean, the finish was fine. Him catching Rhino into the end of the day. It's like anytime he does that off of any move, I always think that's kind of neat. But other than that, it's sort of cut and dry, paint by numbers, whatever euphemism you want to use for boring will totally fit this one.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. Really, honestly, truthfully, So I'm going to go back to the joke I was trying to get over, and maybe that'll be more entertaining than this.
You can tell people that joke again.
Yeah, so talking about Alexa Bliss and nailing the character, you get it. Okay. Yeah. Harry Broadhurst, hear that? Got to get that over. Help me.
Okay, well that is NXT. So. Pretty good. Again, it's pretty much what you get from NXT, bunch of squashes, but it was still, I thought, pretty entertaining all around from, the people that you had on.
Yeah, there you go. Well, yeah. That is, not a bad show. It had its moments, the ups and downs, but it was a pretty okay show overall. But we got to move on, guys. We need to talk about another great show we love to talk about. That is right. We've got to talk about Ring of Honor. Do that next.
All right, Phil.
All right, so we open this week's episode of Ring of Honor TV with The Addiction, with Chris Sabin taking on the All Night Express. Pretty basic match, all things considered. Daniels ends up getting distracted by this mysterious Knights of the Rising Dawn guy, and ANX ends up hitting their finish for the win. Not too much, I think, really to talk about here.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's the Addiction don't have the titles anymore, and ANX are kind of starting to get back in the groove of things, but yeah, it wasn't anything like big.
Yeah, I mean, you're correct. It didn't have anything too big to it, but I mean, once again, it's just nice to see Kenny King in someplace other than TNA. So that's what I focused on, and I was happy about.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully from here, Ring of Honor turns up the television content to an 11, because out next they send out the Kingdom, who are talking about their actions from All-Star Extravaganza from a couple weeks ago, and you get to have all the raging because it's a tape show and her. Anyways, So we have Cole talks down Red Dragon, pretty much saying that they don't deserve to be anywhere near the Ring of Honor title or any belt for that matter. And then they run Elgin down because he had to go to Japan to be relevant again. And then this brings out Red Dragon and Elgin, of course, and we have a sort of faux bra here and everything. And it's good stuff, I think, all the way around here.
Yeah, I mean, this was entertaining for me. I liked it. I like that we got the pokes and prods into people, so it's fine. That's what the Kingdom does.
Exactly. And with just an hour of television, I'll say this, and they just have this one segment. I mean, they have built this story, and it's not a long story, but they've built it, and this kind of adds to it, and I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. From all that, we're getting a six-man tag next week on Ring of Honor television, which should be pretty gosh darn good. Moving right along, though, we have an Inside ROH segment that runs down or discusses Dalton Castle and Silas Young feud. We move on from there, where Adam Cole Bebe gets to cut a promo about his upcoming match with AJ Styles in 2 weeks. That should be something wonderful. And then we get to the meat and potatoes of the show, the no DQ match between Jay Briscoe and Adam Page. We got BJ Whitmer on commentary. Holy crap, was this amazing, guys. They went out there. Adam Page put on the working boots. Jay Briscoe murdered him for putting on the worker boots. BJ Whitmer and Carino get into it. Carino ends up having to punch BJ in the face with a roll of quarters, which the whole crowd freaking marks out for. And Adam Page, however, ends up taking the loss here by getting distracted due to Whitmer and Carino on the outside. But, Jesus, this was amazing.
I didn't get to finish this, so I have not actually watched this match, which makes me feel like crap, because now I should have watched it.
We can pause the podcast so you can go watch this match right now.
And pause. Okay. That was a great one, wasn't it, Sean? You loved it.
Yeah, it was awesome, guys. Exactly what Paul described.
No,
just gotta say, roll of quarters, man.
Sold.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's great.
just do that every time.
Exactly. I mean, this is once again, I talked about building the story. They've been building this and building this and building this, and finally we get a little bit of the payoff, a little bit, not all of it, but a little bit. It's great. I loved it. This match was wonderful. The ending was great. I mean, this was totally one of the best endings to Ring of Honor shows in the past few weeks. I mean, it's just been great. So they've had some good stuff, but this is wonderful. So. But you know what? Like I said, we always encourage everybody to go check out the Ring of Honor shows. If you don't get to, you need to go find it. You need to go and definitely go to Ring of Honor's website and go find this. It'll be available in a couple of weeks at least. So, well, guys, that's Ring of Honor. It's short, but it's sweet. That's what I like. It's a really sweet show. But we're going to go on and move on to TNA. Yes, that's right. TNA has a lot of stuff that we've got to get into. So we're going to be right back with some Impact Wrestling.
TNA Impact Wrestling.
Sean, you okay?
Pass out because of that song. Well, it's another week in the hashtag World Title Series, guys. I will say Austin Aries did have a pretty good match there. But yeah, I mean, it's this World Title Series with TNA, so you know what you're kind of getting here. That being said, hey, one of those guys that Paul doesn't like, Mr. Anderson, had to wrestle Austin Aries. Mandrews had to wrestle Tigre Uno. For some reason, they felt like they had to replay the main event of Bound for Glory. And then we got Jesse and Crimson, Eli Drake, Micah, Manic, and DJ Z. And then we end the show with EC3 against Bobby Lashley. How do you guys feel like this went on this evening?
Okay, so I'm going to give TNA Raw credit, because this is a really, really interesting idea. And I think it would be even more interesting if you had some storyline work going on in between all these guys. Because so far, it's really just match after match after match. And they even clipped some of these guys. Like Jesse Goddard's and Crimson was clipped, and Eli Drake and Micah was clipped. And some of you are probably saying, thank God, and rightfully so. But it's really hard to get into a lot of this without there being a lot of storylines happening. And I know we usually like, oh my God, overdone stories, but just something to keep me involved in what's happening in these matches.
Exactly. I agree with Paul totally on this. And you know what? I mean, I get it. This is a tournament. Not everybody's going to be in the same matches. So, you've got that. But I think even if you do some things maybe with people who, I mean, I guess everybody's in the tournament, but if there were people not in the tournament, or maybe you can even build some stuff with EC3 struggling through some things as he goes through the tournament, or, even Mr. Anderson has to, effectively, cheat to win. In the tournament matches, just little things like that to add to these matches to make you care more about each match. That's all you need. A little bit of flavor. I mean, you're getting a lot, on your plate, but not a whole lot of flavor. We need the flavor to make this meal good. That's the way I look at it, though.
Lots and lots of flavor. You need some red hot and something else, and pepper and salt and however other many seasonings you want to put on there.
Some JR's barbecue sauce.
Yep, that's the perfect one.
Yeah. So.
I don't think I can beat that, so. I feel bad because there's probably TNA fans that might listen and they go, God, you guys just totally have killed TNA. Well, it's like, well, I mean, TNA kind of just made their show really easy to go through now. It's just a bunch of matches.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, we could sit here and break down each match, but honestly, we probably would lose a lot of people by doing that alone. But I mean, really, you get what you get. You get matches, you get results, and here we go, moving on in the tournament. And if you give us a little bit of that flavor, like Paul was talking about, you're gonna have more to talk about. But right now, we just don't have it.
It's hard. It's just like the World Cup itself. There's some teams that are gonna play each other that have no history. And it's the first time, and you're like, okay, you're either excited about it being the first time, or you're just expecting, okay, well, this team's way better than this team, you know who's going to win. Or you have teams like, let's say, in England plays to Germany, and they have a ton of history, and you're just like, oh my God, I'm so amped up for this, and half the time the game doesn't live up to any of the hype, but sometimes it does, so it's just kind of like that, It's either you get a good match or a bad match, or you care about people going in or you don't. It's hard to be like, okay, well, Mr. Anderson wrestled this guy 3 times, a long time ago, and I don't know. I think it's kind of hard to do with something like that.
I mean, there's nothing in this directly affecting TNA other than a bunch of guys want the title. That is the entire story for their 2-hour episode. And I mean, if you're just into straight wrestling, that's fine. I enjoy wrestling as much as the next guy, but just something. Give me something. Something else.
I totally agree. So, like I said, if you're a TNA fan, you come and listen to us talk about it. We are being positive. I mean, these are good matches. Some are better than others. But, we're sorry. There's not a lot to talk about here. You just basically results. And you could have, read the results on a website and probably got as much out of it as we did. So, but anyway, guys, well, that is TNA Impact. We are going to move on, and we have to do one last thing that is very special, and that is crown a Superstar of the Week. We'll be right back with that.
Superstar of the Week.
on Sunday night.
I think that entire segment might have been on mute. I think that entire segment might have been on mute.
Oh, did you put us on mute for the entire segment?
I thought I hit mute. I thought I hit unmute, and I just realized it was still on mute. So.
Okay, well, we can do it again, and then you can.
I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know if I hit it on accident or. I can't go back now until we actually go back to the show.
We can edit this later, right? You can just have to, if you're live.
Well, I don't want to take it off. Man, it sucks. It kills all of our live listeners.
Oh, don't worry about it.
Take it off Spreaker.
Well, don't take it off.
No, I mean, if it was cut off for 3 minutes, it's gonna make people go, "What the hell happened?" But,
yeah.
I mean, I can just put it in the notes there that if it actually was like that, that I can just put, "Hey, something happened and we went blank for 3 minutes."
Okay. Well, just to let everybody know, just listening, if you did hear him mute and you didn't hear, hey, listen, our list is just simple. Adam Page won.
Well, basically everybody had the same. Well, except me. You guys didn't have Tyler Breeze in their list. I did. Everybody else had, Paul and Gary had Seth Rollins instead of Tyler Breeze, but we all had James Storm, we all had New Day, and we all had Adam Page and Jay Briscoe.
So there you go. But Adam Page won it. But, going from there, sorry about that, everybody. This is just kind of freaks us out when technical difficulties happen a little bit. We're just making sure all the content's on the show. But, like I said before, we are, excited about this show coming up Sunday on Rabble.tv. You can go and listen to us do Hell in a Cell live as it is. You don't need to listen to Michael Cole, JBL, or anybody else on that commentary team. You come and listen to us. Turn on the pay-per-view. Listen to us do it when you turn on Rabble TV. It is going to be fun. You get to actually watch the show with us. That's what the fun thing is. So come check it out. Come enjoy it with us. We're excited to have you. And of course, following that, pretty much immediately, it'll be pretty soon after, we're going to be doing our normal post pay-per-view show, and that'll give you all the Hell in a Cell post game, and we're so excited about doing that. Once again, we'll have our friends, Mr. Harry Broadhurst from the Raw Reaction, and of course from Wrestling Unwrapped, Mr. Patrick Ketza. So those two guys will definitely be on with us. We'll do our normal thing.
I should note that in Paul's place will be Mr. Patrick Ketza doing that Hell in a Cell
during an actual Rabble TV, but Paul.
Yes.
Oh, well, Paul won't be.
Well, Paul won't be on either.
Oh man, I forgot about that. So sadly, man, we're missing out on Paul. But
we'll
that's
have to do the whole thing like what happened with Night of Champions. We'll have to hear Paul's thoughts on the show.
It's just a bummer. I love having. Well, okay. Well, Paul's got things going on now. He's got to work, and he's got a lot of things going. So, but we will definitely be covering that on Sunday night. And of course, you don't want to miss what Paul has to say next Thursday on our normal W2M. You want to hear what Paul's thoughts, so you need to come check us out again on Thursday. And of course, we'll be doing some other great stuff, on that show as well. So you don't want to miss it. But Sean, go ahead and give us a few other plugs before we get out of here.
Yeah. I don't know how long after. If you're still listening at 4 a.m, God bless you. Obviously you could be somewhere else, like Steve in England or something, and it's 9 a.m. for him, so it's no big deal. But if you're not one of the other global listeners that we have, which we apparently have many, we are doing our Football to Football podcast in just a little bit, previewing the whole NFL Week 7. And also going over that putrid San Francisco 49ers Seahawks Thursday night game. And then also just looking at some college games and all that stuff too. Some fantasy questions for Gary. So there'll be plenty of things to talk about on that show. And then, of course, if you're a Cowboys fan or a Giants fan, Gary and I are Cowboys fans, you can listen to Mr. Brandon Biscoe, being who you heard on the show already, and myself doing play-by-play and commentary, not like what we're going to do during the wrestling, the Hell in a Cell. We will not be doing that for that show. We'll be doing more of a, kind of like if you were, like Gary said, if you were sitting with us around a couch, what you would hear us talk about watching the show. So that's cool. If you listen at 4 o'clock, you'll get a regular style, like, this is how you do a game kind of thing. And then if you listen at 8 o'clock, it's like you're hanging out with your buddies on the couch watching Hell in a Cell. We're right there with you in your living room. We're just there in audio form, you know. So, but yeah, that's there for you. And of course, you should just go check out Rival TV period, because they have some good stuff all the time. If you get bored by, apparently muting Joe Buck is a thing now. So if you get tired of hearing Joe Buck call baseball or even football, which that's probably going to be a thing. You're going to be muting Joe Buck to listen to me and Brandon. So do it again, because keep that hashtag alive. Apparently, it's seriously a thing. There's a picture with like a blimp that says hashtag mute Joe Buck.
Wow.
Or mute Buck or whatever. Yeah.
Wow. Is there a hashtag for where is Bray Wyatt, or where is Luke Harper?
There should be.
There is.
Poor guy. I miss him so much already. I hope he gets back soon. So.
Yes.
Anything else though, Shauna? Is that it for our plugs?
Yeah, well, I did. I've actually technically done 3. I'm going to be winding up doing 3 podcasts, and when we did co-op multi, it probably ended about 20 minutes before the Thursday night game started. So yeah, we did that. We talked about more Nintendo NX rumors and other many things. Paul was on 4-player co-op this week, so if you want to hear what he had to say about some of those things, you can check that out. Paul didn't win, sadly, but you know, that actually went up about a couple of hours ago, so it should be up there while you're listening to this. And yeah, just check out our friends at Mr. Randall with the TWE After Dark whenever he decides to do that, because sometimes he just skips weeks, because wrestling is his job now, so he has to tell you about it constantly. I don't blame him, I guess. If I was writing about wrestling and actually getting paid for it, I'd brag about it too. Why not? But sometimes he overkills it. And Mr. Harry Broadhurst, of course, with his very merry band of guys, and Tony Acero and Jimmy Christopher doing the Raw reaction over there. Always got to give them a shout out. And yeah, I mean, even though they seem to not give us shout outs ever.
That's okay.
I'm pretty sure they hate us. It's cool.
Yeah, it's alright.
It's fine. We just we get Harry when he comes on once a month. So.
Exactly, and there's always an option at WrestleMania 32 for a 6-man tag team match between our shows. So
yeah, that would be
we'll
awesome.
see. Yeah, we'll have to figure that one out. So, anyway, guys, well, that is our show. Once again, we appreciate you, checking us out and listening. And if it's your first time, hey, come check us out again this next Thursday, and hopefully you come check us out Sunday as well. Make sure you rate and review, though. It's very important for us. We really appreciate all those that have already done it.
Subscribe as well.
Yes.
If you're a first-time listener, just hit subscribe, because then you never miss an episode, whether it's an extra, a special, or just a regular number episode.
Yeah, and if you... Go ahead.
And even something I should have mentioned to Gary a long time ago, but we have 50 episodes that never technically aired on Spreaker. Once a week now, until we get to 50, I will be doing a W2M Retro, where you basically get to hear the unedited version of those episodes once a week. One by one, until we get to number 50.
Wow.
Some of them do include Paul. Some of them do include Chris Lemsey. Some of them include people that you've never heard of again, because they were part of 411 and now no longer are part of 411. Well, it's when we were kind of trying to get the podcast on 411, and we started getting 411 riders for a little bit. There's people you probably will never hear of again that were on the podcast once. It's also just only me and Gary for the most part, so... but it's cool because it's different. It's not a live setting as when we were recorded, and we could do it anytime we wanted, and it was I sadly don't have those practice episodes anymore, because those would probably be even more rare gems than these, but
so terrible.
Yeah, so bad, but it'd still be funny to get to listen to them again. But yeah, so you get to hear us from when we first started until and I'll write a description based on all the stuff that's in there. It's when we used to actually cover Smackdown and all that stuff. So
well, lots of embarrassing things, but hey, that's what's been fun for you.
If you never watched those first days of NXT when it was in Full Sail, you get to hear those too.
That's true. So lots of great stuff, and yes, that is very cool. W2M Retro is a blast, so you need to go check those out. But anyway, guys, well, we've done a full show, done a lot of great things, but we have to get out of here. So just want everybody to remember, one simple thing: if you're not living life to the max,
Not living life at all.
You know it.
Please.
later, guys.
Well, if I can get there. There we go.
Click.